The world has entered the era of cyber warfare, with consortia ruling over 9 major star regions. Virtual devices, neon lights, mechanical installations. In order to study the mysteries of the human body, the Federation has launched a virtual game called Old God to the market, becoming the second world of human society. In Old God, you can obtain wealth, social status, and an extraordinary power. The 6-star area is the 7th day of the open beta of Old God. Sufan woke up again and returned to his most familiar gaming realm, Asgard, with his experience as a level 180 secret swordsman. This is a pure traditional online game article. Keywords of the novel. Rebirth of Cyberworld with no pop-ups. Download the complete TXT collection of Rebirth of Cyberworld, and read the latest chapters of Rebirth of Cyberworld. Chapter 1. Old Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Old Gods. In the year 2240 of the Juyan calendar, the 6-star district was located in Jinling City. The mottled neon lights cover the city buildings. Curtains cast colorful light and shadow, and virtualized water whales pass through the crowd on the zebra crossing. Everyone is accustomed to this, just like eating and drinking water, naturally interacting with each other. As the financial center of the 6-star district, Jinling City has the busiest urban area and the highest degree of simulation of the skyline curtain. In the bustling crowd, a young man wearing a black hoodie was looking up at the neon curtain on the building. On the huge curtain, a wanted reward was playing. The wanted person was a young man, about 20.8 or 9 years old, with delicate features, but his ears slightly raised, resembling an elf from ancient mythology. Sufan, an S-level wanted criminal. In Old God, the game name is Observer, and he is a 180-level secret swordsman. This person seized the core item of the 10th expansion pack and killed more than 10 senior members of the consortium in the mythical void, causing their souls to be destroyed, violating Article 72 of the Federal Constitution and posing a significant security threat. The Silver Wing Foundation has offered a sky-high reward, and this person is wanted throughout the country. The female host in professional attire, with a serious expression, was broadcasting news and finally added. Under the joint encirclement of 2 major conglomerates, Sufan's game character has been killed and deprived of the permission to log into Old God. However, this person retains his complete soul and to some extent retains the power of a saint, which is extremely dangerous. Once you find the target, please remain calm and call the security number 10,086 as soon as possible. The crowds on the bustling streets occasionally stop to watch the major news on the curtain. When they saw the bounty amount, they were all amazed. Especially at the final annotation of the exorbitant bounty, there was an increase in citizenship privileges, which amazed passers-by. This is the first S-level wanted criminal in the Blue Ocean Federation in nearly 3 years. He is also the only S-level wanted criminal within 50 years who has been rewarded with identity permission. This reward alone is enough to drive the 6-star zone crazy. It's really crazy. The mysterious young man wearing a black hoodie could sense the gaze around him and occasionally scanned him. However, when passers-by saw the ordinary features on his face, they withdrew their gaze and no longer focused on the mysterious young man. Is this the biggest news of the year? If I can find his position and report it back, I can go to the noble community to live. I have been promoted from a citizen to a nobleman. Oh, don't daydream anymore. That's a big shot who masters the power of the saint. Observer, isn't this the top expert in the 6-star zone, an anomaly among the secret swordsmen, and a famous powerhouse nicknamed Star Sky Sword Saint. Such a dangerous target, if you encounter him, pray for survival first. The sound of communication among passers-by came from their ears, and the mysterious young man ignored the outside world and stood quietly in the drizzle. When the green light on the street lights up, the mysterious youth crosses the street and enters the lower-level area of Jinling City. In no time, he arrived at the intricate alleys and streets, with only the shadows cast by the buildings above his head. This is the lower-level area, wandering in the gray area. A street-standing girl wearing a leather jacket cast a seductive glance at the pedestrians on the road. Under the nightclub on the street, there are hippies with punk heads and earrings hanging up, soliciting business. The mysterious youth passed through their sight and did not attract much attention. Even the street-standing girl, after not receiving a response to her seductive glances, withdrew her gaze from her ordinary features and no longer focused on the mysterious youth. Entering the alley, the mysterious young man cut off the gaze of others, as if isolated from the outside world. There is no need to worry about electronic surveillance in the lower-level areas with mixed forces. Arriving at the extinguished billboard, the mysterious young man sat down against the baffle, covering his figure. Then, he touched his face and lightly stroked it, causing the simulated human skin mask to automatically peel off and turn into a silver marble on his hand. This is one of the two props he brought out from Old God, which can cover up his appearance and even change his aura. Opening his hoodie, the mysterious young man revealed a perfect appearance, exquisite to the point of impeccability. Even the most famous federal male star on the screen felt guilty when he saw this venerable appearance, but his ears were slightly pointed, somewhat like elves from ancient mythology. The mysterious young man is Sufan, an S.level wanted criminal. Sufan let out a breath, raised his arm, and looked at the faint blue pattern on his skin, which was uncertain. This is a symbol of the power of the Holy One, also known as the Holy Mark. At this moment it becomes incomplete because his game character has been destroyed, unable to resonate with his real body, and his ability to unleash the power of the sage has greatly decreased. Nevertheless, Sufan is far superior to ordinary people. Under the sage, all are ants. All of this benefits from the development of the mysteries of the human body and the spiritual power bestowed upon them by Old God. As for the origin of the Old God, we have to start from history. Since the mid-20th century, the entire Blue Sea Star has entered the era of human federation, with the world divided into 9 star regions. 9 star regions maintain autonomy and form different cultures. With the development of technology, the material resources in the 9 major star regions have become increasingly abundant. But the widening wealth gap, the obvious pyramid effect, and the increasingly sharp social contradictions. To this end, the Central Council, independent of the 9 star regions, gathered the power of the entire Blue Ocean Federation and promoted the birth of Old God. Old God is a virtual game that can be called Second World, Perfect Stealth, and Fourth Technological Revolution. The simulation degree reaches 100%, and the sensory experience of the login user in the game is completely consistent with the real world. Moreover, it contains the secrets of the human body, allowing loggers to peek into the extraordinary in Old God and unlock the mysteries of the human body step by step. It is said that the Old Gods originated from ancient relics of the Moon civilization. However, although Sufan had a high position in the 6-star region, he was not qualified to join the Central Council, and his understanding of the truth behind the Old Gods was only hearsay. Moreover, after his breakup with the Silver Wing Consortium, the information channels were completely cut off. After all, Sufan has taken over the entire high-level circle of the other party, and apart from the president, no core member can be spared. No wonder he offered a sky-high reward. Even Sufan felt guilty and worth selling for this price. However, he also paid a huge price. The game character was not only killed, but the opponent used special means to prevent Sufan's character from reviving. In other words, he completely destroyed the character and banned logging into Old God. It means he has lost the favor of Old God and only possesses the incomplete power of the Holy One. Even if it were to be redone, Sufan would not regret it. Because he must do so, otherwise the Silver Wing Consortium will take everything from Sufan, including game resources. Without game characters, I can't use this thing. Sufan murmured to himself and took out a golden crystal from his arms. This was the second game item he brought out from Old God, and the last thing he carried was also the source of all these disputes, which came from the core item of the 10th expansion pack, God Cataclysm. The core of the Old God. The golden crystal emitted an intoxicating color, illuminating Sufan's pitch-black pupils. The core item that is enough to drive the entire Silverwing Consortium crazy and pursue him, the old God Core, has a simple function of giving users divinity and hope to enter the realm of gods. Since the opening of the 10th expansion pack, no more than 10 Old Gods Core have fallen into the hands of players. In the 6-star region, Sufan was the first saint to win the Old Gods Core, and there is hope for further progress. Once in the Divine Void, Sufan used the power of the Silverwing Consortium to pursue him, but instead hunted down the first old god who was about to recover. Lord of Time Kronos. The divine crystal core dropped by the opponent was taken advantage of by Sufan and taken into his pocket. However, the use of Old God's Core must be a game character. Sufan has lost the character and does not have the conditions to absorb it. You can't find someone else, just send it out for free, cough cough cough. Sufan was joking about himself when suddenly he coughed a few times and a crimson color flowed from the corner of his mouth. When Sufan broke through from the noble community, he used the power of the Holy One and had already suffered significant injuries. He had lost his game character and his body was recovering very slowly. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. When he coughed, some blood splashed onto the surface of the gold crystal, and the two fused together. In an instant, the golden color suddenly dispersed, illuminating Sufan's face. What is this? The golden crystal extended a large amount of silk thread, like a spider web, wrapping around Sufan's body. Subconsciously, Sufan was about to activate the remaining power of the Holy One and continue to resist the mutation. However, in his mind, inexplicably, he remembered the last sentence left by the opponent when he killed Colonus, some inexplicable last words. Adventurer, do you still remember the past regrets? Regret. Sufan stopped and took out a yellowed photo from his pocket, which was a group photo in front of an ancient shrine. Two young people, a man and a woman, were hanging on the young man's back like a sloth, with her legs wrapped around his waist. The young girl showed a sunny smile, facing the camera and holding a pair of scissors. If we had discovered her minor illness earlier. If we didn't sign an unequal contract with the Silverwing Consortium back then. If he doesn't miss out on those opportunities. All kinds of regrets in his life surged up in Sufan's heart like foam. Finally, he looked at the golden crystal core and, deep down in his heart, inexplicably, came up with an absurd idea. If everything can be redone. Boom! The golden halo bloomed, carrying the power of looking back on time, completely devouring the figure of the youth. In the endless chaos of darkness, a ray of golden light overflowed, quickly occupying the entire field of vision. Where is this? Sufan regained consciousness and forcefully opened his eyelids. The next second, the scene that comes into view is no longer a dark and damp alley. Bottles of coffee beans are placed on the table, with a coffee-making machine on the left, emitting hot air. On the right is a neatly arranged list of books, on top of which are books such as History of the 6-Star Region, High School Mathematics and Physics, High School Linguistics, etc. The familiar textbooks once made Sufan feel afraid of returning to the college entrance examination. Looking up, Sufan saw outside the bar, empty at dusk, with unused coffee tables one after another. Isn't this the coffee shop I left behind after my parents passed away in Ruoxue City? Due to poor management, coupled with my trip to Jinling City for further studies, I sold this ancestral shop. Sufan was stunned and lost in thought. Is that so? Sufan suddenly looked up and looked at the electronic calendar on the wall of the store. He remembered that it was his father's favorite small ornament, and while organizing the relics, his sister also emphasized keeping it in its original state. July 15th, in the year 2230 of the astrological calendar. 10 years ago, I was reborn. Subconsciously, Sufan touched his ear and felt that there was no sharp earlobe. The appearance of an ordinary person instantly convinced him of the truth. As a former saint, even the most powerful illusion could not affect his perception of the body. So, there is only one answer: he was indeed reborn. Returning to 10 years ago, all regrets have not yet begun. Bang! As the wind chimes rang on the door, a black-haired girl pushed the door in. Her facial features were delicate, wearing a black striped and white checkered college uniform on her upper body and a black short skirt on her lower body, paired with matching stockings and round-toed leather shoes, exuding a youthful and lovely vitality. "Brother, how's business today?" Su Xingxue stood in front of him, with her hands behind her, leaning forward and looking at him with a smile on her face. The familiar scene with a sense of distance stunned Sufan, until Su Xingxue's eyebrows furrowed and she reached out to touch his forehead, murmuring to herself, "No fever, brother. Aren't you dozing off during the day and feeling drowsy? By the way, there were new coffee beans delivered by courier this morning. Where did you put them?" "Sorry, I don't remember." Sufan. He was a bit awkward. Who can remember a little thing from 10 years ago? Even though the soul of the saint had been strengthened and his memory greatly improved, Sufan was muttering inwardly. Suddenly, a picture appeared in his mind and he instinctively replied. In the storage room, in the cabinet below the right side of the refrigerator. After speaking, Sufan was stunned. When did my memory become so good? The bits and pieces of his life over the past decade can be vividly presented in his mind with just a little recollection, without any difference. Even small things like eating or drinking water can uncover every detail. It's like time imprinting a special imprint on him, and this imprint is the memory of life. Is this the core of the old gods effect? No, it should be said that Kronos has a unique ability, and only he is associated with the power of time in the entire old god game. Therefore, my rebirth comes from this gift, which also includes amazing memory. Sufan vaguely guessed the truth, and at this moment, his thoughts surged in his heart. If life were to be redone, all regrets could be salvaged. At least, Sufan still had the opportunity to change them. Just as he was lost in thought, Su Xingxue received the answer at the counter and blinked. "Oh, then when I visit the store tonight, I can try launching new products." As soon as he finished speaking, Sufan thought of a cup of milky yellow coffee. It was his sister's new product, the big gold milk cap, but it was a dark dish with a beautiful appearance. After being asked to drink it, he had diarrhea for half a day. This is what will happen tomorrow morning, however, Sufan remembers it very clearly. I remember what will happen in the future. Subconsciously, Sufan looked at the black-haired girl, his gaze fixed on the familiar face. Su Xingxue and his sister are both high school students from the private Shujin High School, currently studying in their third year of high school. According to the original trajectory, the two of them will take the college entrance examination for further education next year. In the federal era, only those who attended private high schools were eligible to take the entrance exam and pursue education at knowledge universities in upper-tier cities. As an era of knowledge monopoly, the cost of universities is extremely high, which is a huge challenge for the Su family. The parents of the two are from a remarried family and passed away due to an aviation accident. Although they lost a lot of money, the cost of a private high school is already quite high. In recent years, the cost of attending school has been consumed in various ways. Fortunately, the Su family's parents also left a coffee shop, barely enough for them to make a living. But if two people are admitted to university, it is far from enough to support their further education. However, the person in charge of finance is Su Xingxue. She concealed this very well and did not tell Sufan about it. On the contrary, Su Xingxue secretly submitted a blank paper in the college entrance exam, deliberately failed, and then deceived Sufan into selling a coffee shop, which was enough money for him to continue his studies. Later, the two rented a house in Jinling City, and Su Xingxue went to the borrowing room to work during the day to subsidize their household expenses. At night, Sufan explained interesting stories from college to her. Although her sister's face was full of smiles, she patiently listened to him tell stories. But the desolation in the girl's eyes could never be concealed. Thinking of this, Sufan's heart moved. Despite his sister's past regrets, he had the right to change everything. As a reborn person, he has this confidence and ability. Not to mention anything else, relying solely on his possession of the secrets of the old god to seek wealth and solve their tuition fees is not a problem. Brother, guess what gift I brought you? Su Xingxue suddenly leaned forward, her fair and charming face, less than a few inches away from him, shining brightly under the light. What gift? Halfway through, Sufan had already remembered the other party's gift. At this moment, Su Xingxue proudly lifted her handbag, which was the student backpack from Xiujin High School, and placed it on the bar. The next moment, she opened her handbag and took out a dark blue helmet with the symbol, Infinity, on it. It is the Type 1 virtual helmet called the Tailed Snake. Logging into Old God requires virtual devices, and with the privileges of citizens, the most common way is to purchase a Type 1 virtual helmet. As for the more advanced Type 2 helmet, the Leviathan, which is priced dozens of times higher than the Oricus, it is definitely considered a luxury item. Despite this, the purchase price of the Tailed Snake is not cheap, costing 20,000 federal dollars, which is roughly equivalent to the 5-month salary of an ordinary adult, or about half a year's income from a coffee shop. After all, their store revenue is not good. It's better not to pay rent, otherwise the two siblings may lose money and apply for bankruptcy liquidation when opening a store. Brother, this is the helmet you most want. Right. Su Xingxue waved her helmet, like a child showing off her grades, and volunteered. Last time I saw you standing in front of a store selling virtual devices on the commercial street, you stopped for a long time, looking like you wanted to buy but didn't dare to. Hee, if you want to, just tell me. In a series of teasing, Su Xingxue put his helmet on his head, gestured a few times, and proudly said with a straight chest. The size is just right, it seems that I have a good grasp of my brother's brain size. Looking at his sister who pretended to be relaxed, Sufan's heart was touched. In his past life, when the other party fooled him into selling coffee shops, he also used this cheerful tone, which didn't make him feel uncomfortable and even concealed the girl's sense of disappointment. Back then, Sufan was not sharp enough to notice anything unusual. Looking back now, Su Xingxue hides her sadness deep in her heart. Well, Xingxue's vision is really accurate. Sufan praised a sentence, and suddenly his topic changed. The summer vacation is over, and the start of the school year is the 3rd year of high school. Next year, we have to prepare for the college entrance examination. Is there no problem with the funds on our books? Upon hearing this, Su Xingxue's eyes flickered for a moment, and her fingers behind her unconsciously entwined, pretending to remain calm and saying, "Brother, don't worry, you don't have to worry about these things. There is still a lot of pension left." Well, Xingxue's lying is really clumsy. I used to be too slow and dull. Sufan sighed in his heart, but he didn't expose his sister's caution. There is still time before the entrance exam, which is enough for him to change everything. By the way, I heard that Old God is open for public beta testing, and many large groups have joined the game. Sufan deliberately mentioned it and added, perhaps I can quickly find a part-time job and make a little money by entering the game. This is a preventive shot to instill some concepts in Su Xingxue, so that in the future, he won't earn a lot of wealth from Old God, and won't scare Su Xingxue into thinking that his brother has done something to squat in. After all, there is a saying that the ways to make big money are all written in the federal constitution. Wow, brother is really amazing. Su Xingxue held her chin and looked at him with admiration on her face. Her expression was 3 parts admiration and 7 parts admiration, and she performed perfectly. Seeing this situation, Sufan rolled his eyes secretly. He couldn't tell where he was. His younger sister didn't believe him, just perfunctory to avoid his own brother's embarrassment. He really gave his brother face, it was too considerate. Dong! The clock on the wall rang, and Su Xingxue looked up and quickly pushed him upstairs. Brother, I heard that Old God opens from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and closes during the day. It's past 7 in the evening now. Hurry up and wash up and get ready to log into the game. As usual, let me take responsibility for guarding the store at night. This is the summer routine of Su Family Cafe. Usually, Sufan watches the daytime hours, while Su Xingxue watches the nighttime hours, ensuring that they are open 24 hours a day, which can increase their income range. Of course, this is a bit difficult. As for the opening period of the school year, the business hours are from dusk to early morning, with Su Fan guarding the first half of the night and Su Xingxue guarding the second half of the night. Pushed up by his younger sister to the second floor, Su Fan looked at the beautiful figure downstairs and took a deep breath. This time, I can't hold her back anymore. After taking a shower in the bathroom, Su Fan rubbed his hair and returned to his bedroom. The second floor area above the coffee shop has only 2 bedrooms and a shared bathroom, with the kitchen miscellaneous room located downstairs. Fortunately, there were only 2 siblings living there, each with a bedroom and a shared bathroom. Although the sparrow was small, it had all its internal organs. Lying on the bed, Sufan put on his helmet and watched the clock gradually point towards 8 o'clock. He recalled the situation in the game Old God at that time. The 6-star zone has opened login permissions for Old God, also known as the public beta, which has only been available for a week now. At present, the player level of the first tier is around LV.10, and they are in the exploration stage of Asgard. A large amount of game content has not been disclosed yet. Secondly, professional guilds supported by large groups are also exploring the content. Despite being a week behind, for Sufan, it's not a problem and he has confidence in catching up with them. The most important thing is that 3 days later, which is the 10th day of the open beta of Old God, Asgard will face a divine invasion, and players from the 7th star region of Old Gods will come to Asgard to take action through the invasion plot. In that invasion battle, some lucky ones will take advantage of the situation, while others unlucky ones will suffer heavy losses. In his past life, Su Fan belonged to the latter. At first, he was an idle player who was completely unaware of the invasion plot and was caught off guard. But this time, Su Fan had enough time to prepare for this invasion plot. This is his opportunity. Sufan looked at the clock on the wall, and at that moment, the needle finally pointed to 8 o'clock. He closed his eyes and turned on the start switch of the tail snake. The faint blue light lit up, and Sufan's consciousness followed the virtual device and uploaded to that mysterious and beautiful world, Old God's world. I'm back. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Juyan Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Juyan Town in the consciousness link successful. Creating character template. Sufan opened his eyes and found himself in the yellow sand wilderness. In front of him, a beautiful maid wearing a veil bowed to him with a smile. Adventurer, please let me know your name and taboo. Viewers. Sufan did not hesitate and directly adopted the name of his previous life. Is there a change in appearance? Yes. Appearance adjustment is a unique feature that allows for subtle adjustments to replace the original appearance while maintaining beauty and ugliness. A golden light flashed by, and Sufan's appearance changed into another posture, still scoring full marks for his appearance. If Old God were just a simple social platform, he would probably be the popular leader, at the level that can attract traffic to the platform. Please choose your profession and place of origin. As soon as Sufan finished speaking, 7 types of weapons appeared in front of him. They had a golden appearance and represented 7 basic professions. Swordsman, shield guard, archer, coder, knight, contract master, assassin. 7 basic professions. When players reach LV.10, can spawn 15 advanced professions, which are also the mainstream professions in Old God. Among them, the swordsman has 2 branches, the first being the secret swordsman and the second being the swordsman. Sufan did not hesitate and chose the golden long sword. His past life accumulation was all in the secret swordsman, so there was no reason to sacrifice his strengths over his weaknesses. The secret swordsman places equal emphasis on agility and intelligence, and among the 15 professions, he has the most bizarre attack methods. Even the guardian in the shield guard, the most flesh tank, does not want to encounter a secret swordsman because the opponent's attack is difficult to resolve and can even penetrate various defenses. The disadvantage is that it is easy to collapse in the early stage. After all, dual attribute development is emphasized, and it takes longer to form than the vast majority of single attribute professions. Tip: you have selected the swordsman profession and have acquired basic skills and talents. Please refer to the details on the panel for more information. Sufan didn't care about the prompts, but looked at the desert maid, as she had already unfolded a large map in her hand. Adventurer, please choose your place of birth. In the future, become a citizen of the 6th divine domain, Asgard. On the map of Asgard, a large number of faint blue dots light up, which represent the place of birth but are concentrated in the lower right corner. The 6-star region corresponds to the 6th god domain in Old God, Asgard, also known as the Desert God Domain, because nearly 60% of the land is in a desert environment, followed by green forests and mountains. The Old God has 9 divine realms, corresponding to the 9-star regions in reality. In addition, the 9 divine realms grow on the world tree Aich, which are world planes formed by different branches of the world tree. The essence of divine realm invasion is plane fusion. Sufan looked at the big map, which allowed him to choose a place of birth. Tip: your login location has been detected as Ruoxue City, and your place of birth is fixed to Haiyan Duchy. The birthplace of the founding character depends on the actual location of the first login. If Shueisha corresponds to the Black Flame Duchy, the 11th ranked duchy among the 12 duchies in the 6th divine realm. According to the public statement provided by Blue Ocean Federation, since Old God is the second world of human society, the login point and Old God world also need to correspond to the location. Of course, if citizens are willing to take a car to the neighboring city, they can also change the range of their birth point. It's just a bit troublesome, and most people don't want to do it. After all, their relatives and friends are all in real locations, logging into the corresponding countries in the game. My goal is the Black Flame Duchy. The ranking of the Black Flame Duchy is at the bottom, but Sufan precisely needs it because it is the location where the invasion plot erupts. In the future trajectory, the 11th ranked crane tail among all duchies will become the focal point of the entire Asgard plot. Due to federal propaganda, most cities have their own, exclusive locations, although in name, Ruoxue City can choose the entire city. State of the Haiyan Duchy, the vast majority of Ruoxue City residents will choose Juyan Town as their birthplace. Compared to the capital of the Haiyan Duchy, the main city of Haiyan, Juyan Town has less competitive pressure. Juyan Town is mainly composed of individual players and studios, with a sparse number of professional guilds. Coincidentally, Juyan Town is suitable for my early development, and I am most familiar with it. Without hesitation, Sufan clicked on the Juyan Town light spot. The next second, he felt weightlessness coming, his whole body shrouded in gold. Tip: you have obtained citizenship in the Black Flame Duchy. Please open the character panel for details. When the golden light dissipated, Sufan opened his eyes again and he was already in the fountain square. Behind him is a huge stone statue, which is the first monarch of the Black Flame Duchy, Grand Duke Sinis. As a statue, he wears a wizard's robe and holds a code of law in his right hand, facing the crowd in the square. Beside Sufan, there were constantly golden beams of light falling, and new players emerged from the beams. They looked around with shock, marveling at the level of simulation in the world of Old God, and there were plenty of praises. Although the promotional videos of Blue Ocean Federation repeatedly use PV to showcase the game's interior, citizens generally feel that it is an animated fraud, and that there is a certain degree of beautification and embellishment. It is only when they log into the game that they realize the uniqueness of the Old God world. This is the Beginner's Square in Juyan Town, also known as Izumi Square. In front of Yanquan Square is the stall area, where old players are shouting and selling equipment to beginners. Qingfeng long sword, gray quality, only 20 copper coins. A seasoned assassin dressed up, shouting loudly, surrounded by many newcomers. Seeing this situation, Sufan shook his head secretly. In addition to novice weapons, the minimum requirement for wearing weapons is also LV.2. Those newcomers didn't know that upgrading from level 0 to LV.2 would take at least 2 days to practice normally, which is the 2 natural days in reality. Upgrading characters in the old god world is not that easy. In my previous life, I foolishly bought a Qingfeng long sword and managed to survive until LV.2. I was able to wear the Qingfeng long sword, but I was caught up in the invasion of the 7th divine domain, and a large number of players from the opposing camp invaded the giant rock city. He was slaughtered by the enemy camp, not only missing the opportunity to participate in the plot, but also unleashing the long sword. When a player dies, they will randomly drop an item on their body. This is the treatment for individual players. Unlike those in professional guilds, they have internal testing information to refer to and plan ahead. Compared to equipping, the top priority is to upgrade. I know there is a storyline that can be quickly upgraded in the early stages. However, as a professional in the swordsman path, I still need a prerequisite skill. Spirit Blade. To complete that sideline, Sufan thought silently and began planning his actions. At present, Old God has only been launched for a week, and everyone's goal is to upgrade to LV.10 as soon as possible in order to obtain advanced professions. At present, upgrading is far more important than equipping. As a reborn individual, Sufan possesses a wealth of game intelligence, which is a natural advantage that core members of professional guilds do not possess. Soon, he came up with a plan in his mind to acquire the Spirit Blade skill. Turning around and leaving the square, Sufan headed towards the southern district of Juyan town, all the way. The outskirts of Juyan town are adjacent to Dragon Bone Wilderness, which is a wilderness map. Groups of new players are heading straight to the wilderness, hoping to upgrade by brushing monsters. There are also some players wandering inside Juyan town, searching for opportunities to trigger missions. The old god world is different from ordinary online games in that missions are not ubiquitous, and there are no question marks on the heads of the indigenous people. Whether there is a task triggered on the opponent's body needs to be judged by the player themselves, which tests one's observation ability. If you talk to someone for a long time, it may be a futile effort. This is the most authentic role-playing mode, where all benefits come from your collection of information. For this reason, in the future, Old God even gave birth to the intermediary profession of intelligence merchant, which specializes in selling second-hand information to other players and can be considered an important link in the industry chain. Along the way, you can see many places on the street where players are chatting with the indigenous people. Unfortunately, the vast majority of them returned in vain. Sufan is different from them, with a diameter of up to the southern district and a huge arena at the end. 2 guards wearing brass armor stood guard at the entrance of the arena. There is a long dragon-like crowd that extends from the entrance all the way to Central Street. Players gathered in front of the door, paid fees to 2 guards, and were approved to enter. Sufan glanced and saw that the players in the long queue were generally above LV.2, with some even reaching LV.3 or even LV.4 veteran level. In the old god world, the player's level will be displayed above their head, with the game name on the right, which cannot be concealed. Only by obtaining certain permissions in the game can one block their own name. Sufan has infiltrated the Long Dragon team and his level is LV.0, making him particularly outstanding among this group of experienced players. It's like a sheep accidentally entering a pack of wolves, it's hard not to attract attention. Someone noticed him in front and expressed surprise, especially the level LV.0 on Sufan's head, which was completely out of place with them. Someone whispers, someone looks at the show, someone looks at him with a playful expression, as if looking at a cute newcomer. However, Sufan doesn't care about this. He only thinks about one thing. How can he get the registration fee? To participate in the Twilight Fighting Arena, you need to pay 50 copper coins, which are priced the same as the audience tickets. But the newcomer only has 20 copper coins on him, which is the initial capital. Just like those vendors selling drinks at the newcomer square, they won't sell things for more than 20 copper coins because they know that the initial funds on the newcomer's body are just a small amount, and if they sell too high, no one will take over. At present, there is a gap of 30 copper coins, but it cannot defeat Sufan, especially the level on his head, which has already attracted the attention of others. Sufan looked at the person in line ahead, patted his shoulder, and greeted him, "Brother, how about lending me 30 copper coins?" "Borrow." The person who was slapped on the shoulder by him was stunned for a few seconds. He looked like he was in his early 20s, but with a slight stubble on his chin, which severely damaged his appearance. His eyes were also a bit dark, indicating that he was an overnight party who often stayed up late. But his level is not low, reaching LV.4, which is quite good among casual players. In fact, the vast majority of casual players in Old God came from the computer age of all-night heroes. After entering the Old God world, they often do well with their understanding of the gaming industry and some connections. Of course, the upper limit of their strength is limited to this. Compared to professional players supported by financial conglomerates, they still cannot compete, as the latter possesses massive resources. The vast majority of saints in their past lives came from professional guilds. We can apply for the Eye of Judgment to rule on the contract, which will be paid off within 3 days and will not owe you any money, Sufan added. The Eye of Judgment is the world's main brain that maintains the operation of Old God, and is also one of the 2 main brains of the Blue Ocean Federation. The other main brain is the Book of Order, which is responsible for urban intelligence systems in the real world. Therefore, there is a saying that goes, the Eye of Judgment governs Old God, and the Book of Order controls reality. Ruling a contract with the Eye of Judgment has legal effect and there is no need to worry about the other party's default. Are you sure? Borrow 30 copper coins. The name of Hujui youth is Sprite. As a casual player of LV.4, he naturally can get dozens of copper coins. However, under normal circumstances, strangers borrowing money from him, even with the witness of the Eye of Judgment, Sprite will ignore the other party. But the newcomer in front of them is obviously borrowing money for the purpose of the Twilight Fighting Arena. Sprite's gaze became playful, with a hint of a cinematic mentality. This state was like that of experienced drivers driving on the highway, watching a flustered new driver, hoping that something bad would happen to him. After all, watching fun is a temptation that no one can resist. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Sandguard Trial. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Sandguard Trial. How about it, buddy? Can I borrow it or not? Sufan asked in response, not worried about the other party's refusal. Anyway, with so many old players present, there are always a few happy people. I agree to lend you money and sign a contract. Sprite didn't talk nonsense, reached down and swiped down, pulled out the menu from the air, and clicked on the contract at the bottom. Then, Sprite entered some terms and finally clicked send. Reminder. Sprite, LV.4, is requesting a contract from you, as follows. 1. Sprite lends you 30 copper coins, and the promisee will repay it within 3 days. Otherwise, you will need to pay the same value in real currency. Tip. Yes/no to sign the contract. Sign. Sufan clicks to confirm. The contract terms are very simple, without any traps, and do not require much consideration. After confirmation, a golden pupil appeared in the air next to the 2 people, with several strands of thread entwined around them. Represents the completion of the entire contract. The people lining up next to each other, seeing this scene, all showed a desire for a happy person, which exists in everyone's heart. Sufan looked like wooden figures, completely unaware of the meaning of their gaze, leisurely waiting to enter. After paying fees to the desert guards, players in the front row disappeared into the light curtain at the entrance. Quickly, the team ahead gradually shortened, and finally it was his and Sprite's turn. Purchase an audience ticket. Sprite said to the brass guard. In the next blink of an eye, he lost 50 copper coins in his backpack, and the audience ticket is priced the same as the registration fee. Before entering the gate, Sprite suddenly hesitated for a moment and couldn't help but turn her head and say, "Hey, you should buy audience tickets instead." "Why?" Sufan raised his eyebrows and said somewhat unexpectedly. "From your appearance, you should know that the Twilight Fighting Field is a characteristic building in Juyan town. It has a Sandguard trial function, but the difficulty of challenging it is very high, even I am not sure. You are only at level 0, so go to the wilderness to level it first. It is best to reach LV.4 or above before considering challenging the Sandguard trial. Sprite explained his point, with a sincere tone. This stubble man with thick eyebrows and big eyes actually found Sufan crying and laughing with conscience. He used the psychology of an old player to borrow a gap of 30 copper coins, but did not expect Sprite to tell the truth. Normally, the other party should have seen him lose the challenge and still owe 30 copper coins with a regretful expression, feeling happy and excited. "No need, I just want to give it a try," Sufan waved his hand. Sprite shook her head and stopped persuading upon seeing the situation, only treating the other person as a newcomer with a proud heart. "I always feel like the most special person." Little do they know that newcomers with such thoughts will only be challenged and beaten by the guards, not only losing ticket money, but also falling into a state of weakness. If they die at level 0, players will fall into a state of weakness. Good luck to you then. Sprite stepped into the light curtain door, mentally prepared to see the newcomer being beaten up. The next turn was for Sufan, who said to the desert guard, "I apply to participate in the Sandguard trial. Adventurers are required to pay 50 copper coins." The desert guards charged him a fee, but in terms of attitude, they were clearly more friendly than Sprite and others. "Wishing you success in your challenge and becoming a colleague with us." Sufan nodded and turned to enter the light curtain. The next second, he was already in the waiting area of the arena, which was inside the iron fence. Through the iron fence, one can see an exciting duel on the arena. Both sides are veteran players who participated in the trial, and desert monsters released from the arena. The former is LV.4, judged by its attire as Knight. It is a relatively powerful melee profession in the early stages, and some professions may not be as good as level 4 knights even in LV.5. But his opponent, in the traditional sense, is even more difficult to deal with, which is a desert lizard larger than a human body, desert lizard LV.4, an elite level monster with a high danger rating. Elite level. In the old god world, monsters have different basic templates, and the higher the foundation, the stronger their strength. In the early stages, monster templates are divided into normal level, elite level, boss level, and so on. An elite desert lizard beast, LV. 4, with strength no less than a level 6 ordinary monster. Therefore, the desert lizard suppressed the knight throughout the entire battle, with its incredibly sturdy limbs constantly colliding on the arena, causing the latter's health to drop step by step as it watched as it approached the dangerous health line. The knight held a small round shield and kept resisting attacks. However, in a collision with the desert lizard, his block detection failed, and he couldn't help but stumble, his body stiffening. In the next blink of an eye, the desert lizard's paw hit the knight's body, clearing the last trace of health and forcefully clearing it. Bang! That knight exploded into starlight. But it wasn't over yet. The scattered starlight turned into pure white meteors and flew into the upper audience seat one by one. Suddenly, the players in the audience cheered. After receiving the pure white meteor, they became enthusiastic and their skill proficiency greatly improved. They were further away from the next level, which is the actual value of spectator tickets. After purchasing audience tickets, you can watch 3 Sandguard trials. During the Sandguard trial process, if the challenger is killed by a monster, the level of one character lost by the former's death will be converted into the same skill proficiency, which will be absorbed by the spectators in the audience. This is the functional feature of the Twilight fighting field. In the Black Flame Duchy, each novice town has its own unique advantages. The advantage of Juyan town is the Twilight fighting arena. In their previous lives, players in Juyan town relied on this advantage to have higher skill levels than other players, producing skilled experts. As the challenge comes to an end, it's about to turn to the next one. Sufan reached out and swiped, opening the menu in the air and clicking on the personal panel, viewers belonging to the Divine Domain. Asgard, 6th Divine Domain, Occupation. Swordsman Level. LV.0 Attributes. Strength 5, Agility 7, Physical Fitness 4, Intelligence 4, Perception 6. Health. 100% Mana Value. 20/20ths Attack Power. 5 Defense. 2 Potential Point. 3 Talent and Specialization. Human Race. Accumulated Proficiency of Secondary Professions plus 10% Sword Practitioner. Growth Rate of Swordsmanship Skills plus 30% Professional Skill. Swordsmanship LV.1. Deals 20 points plus 1x agility damage to the target, with a certain probability of causing a stiff effect. The higher the user's agility, the lower the opponent's physique, and the higher the probability of stiff effect. Camp Reputation. Black Flame Duchy, Citizen, Ordinary. Equipment. Beginner set, no attribute, == a relatively simple character panel, each attribute is easy to understand. Except for Perception, which cannot be added points, other attributes can be transformed and improved using potential points. The way to obtain potential points is that for every 5 levels of improvement, the character gains 1 potential point. In other words, characters can only gain new potential points by reaching levels such as LV.5, LV.10, and LV.15. Before level 10, characters had no primary attributes and their attack power only depended on the weapon. Sufan's weapon is a novice long sword with no attributes, so his character only has 5 initial attack points. This panel, compared to the knight from the previous round, can be said to be extremely shabby. Both in terms of level and offense and defense, they are comprehensively lagging behind. Even if the LV.4 knight has not yet gained new potential points and has equal total attributes, the former also has a level advantage and will not be suppressed by the level of monsters. Therefore, that desert lizard has an absolute advantage in attributes. Looking at the panel, Sufan's mind moved and he invested all 3 potential points in his agility attribute. In an instant, a warm current surged through his body, and Sufan's agility reached 10 points, making his skills even lighter. However, his bonus points are very extreme. Normally, swordsmen will invest the 3 potential points from the early stages into their strength attributes to increase their blocking ability. You should know that melee professions inevitably have weapon blocks, which are power collisions. At that time, both sides not only need to look at attack power, but also at power attributes. The higher the power, the easier it is to hit the crushing effect. Due to the power attribute, it affects the block value of the character. Just like in the previous duel, the strength attribute of the desert lizard was higher than that of the knight, and it ultimately achieved a crushing effect. Reminder. You have opened the Sandguard trial. After a successful challenge, you will obtain the Sandguard identity, Black Flame Principality. A warning sound came in his ear, and Sufan suddenly looked up and saw the iron railing slowly rising in front of him. At the same time, on the other side of the arena, a new desert lizard was placed inside the arena, watching him closely. When Sufan stepped into the arena, the other players in the audience were shocked to see the level information on his head. Hey, how could a 0-level guy dare to participate in the Sandguard trial? Is this the new gameplay of dying? 0-level death, can we still gain skill experience if we no longer drop levels? Don't worry, after a 0-level death, there will be a day of weakness, with attributes temporarily halved and experience gains reduced by 70%. Even if he dies at 0 level in the arena, we will still receive rewards for skill experience. The audience were whispering, daring to participate in the Sandguard trial at level 0, which was a situation they had not seen in a long time. Only on the first day of server opening did some inexperienced newcomers accidentally enter the Sandguard trial and sacrifice their virginity to death. Since then, this situation has never happened again. After a week of server opening, a rare level 0 player entered for the first time. In the corner of the audience, Sprite looked at the young man with black hair below and couldn't help but shake her head. If you don't listen to advice, you'll fall into a weak state after death. It's a waste of a day. You can be even worse off than others. Let's just spend money to teach you a lesson. At the same time, some viewers also recognized Sufan, who was the person who had been queuing earlier, and shook their heads, feeling that this guy was too ignorant. I dare to challenge the Sandguard trial at level 0, and as expected, a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. Just as they were not optimistic about the youth, the next moment, the desert lizard on the arena kicked its legs and had already pounced on the black-haired youth. Sufan felt a fishy wind coming, and a dark shadow had already enveloped his vision. The speed of the desert lizard was extremely fast, no less than that of its level of agile professions. Fortunately, the basic agility of the swordsman was very high, and it had a full sensitivity bonus, which was enough for him to react. Lifting his long sword, he blocked the claws of the desert lizard. With a bang, Sufan felt a tremendous force coming from him, and he flew out horizontally. In mid-air, he looked like an agile big cat, turning and landing, but the bright red number, .39, also appeared on his head. The block value is still too low, Sufan silently recited, which is not surprising. The difference in block values between the two sides is too large, which will cause a crushing effect and deduct a certain amount of health. The initial character's health was only 50 points, and Sufan blocked it. His health was only 11 points, very close to the dangerous health line. His level was still too low, suppressed by the level of the desert lizard, and even more dangerous than that night. Roar! The desert lizard seemed to have been triggered by a certain mechanism. Seeing that Sufan's health was not high, he stepped on his legs and threw his entire body into the air. Charge! The signature skill of the desert lizard is precisely this move, which previously broke through the knight's protective measures and turned the latter into starlight. Faced with the fierce enemy, Sufan did not retreat but advanced. As the two approached, suddenly his wrist trembled, and his long sword, which was ready to be fired, pierced the enemy's ribs like a star. Stabbing sword style. Jianmeng's speed was extremely fast, and with a 10-point agility boost, he was actually the last to strike first, accurately piercing the rib of the desert lizard. The next second, the area where Sufan stabbed it was like a defect in a ceramic doll, with cracks spreading one by one. Bang! The two passed by in a wrong direction, and half of the right arm of the desert lizard shattered directly, becoming scattered stars. The attack that was originally aimed at Sufan also fell heavily on the ground due to his imbalanced body. Wow! Seeing this scene, the players in the audience were all shocked, some even couldn't help but stand up on the spot, looking at Sufan on the arena in disbelief and murmuring, "Destroy the damaged area." This newcomer has achieved the effect of destroying parts. Impossible, the weak points of elite monsters only have a rough range. And, who knows the weakness of the desert lizard? I don't know, even formal members of professional guilds have not yet explored the weak points of the desert lizard at this stage. The audience was shocked, as if seeing a ghost, staring at the black-haired young man on the arena. In the old god world, powerful monsters above the elite level will have unique weak points. Once dealing massive damage to vulnerable areas in an instant, it can unleash a destructive effect, causing powerful monsters to fall into a disabled state, just like what Sufan did. However, the weaknesses of elite monsters are very hidden. At present, ordinary players are still exploring content, and even professional guilds that have mastered the beta qualification do not have much understanding of monster weaknesses. Moreover, desert lizards are elite monsters that are not found on the wilderness map and only appear in the arena. Until today, even after opening the server for a week, no one has been able to grasp its weaknesses. A newcomer surprisingly, it achieved the effect of damaging the area. How could this not surprise them? It was like watching a humanities student participate in a sports competition, and everyone was ready to watch a joke, but who would have thought that the sound of gunfire would set a professional sprint record, making everyone doubt they were living in a dream. Sprite in the audience was even more shocked, her chin dropped, and her expression on her face was very exciting, both shocked and shocked. The weakness is indeed at the rib area. After a successful strike, Sufan did not stop and pursued the opponent like a victorious pursuit. In fact, it is difficult to determine the weak points of desert lizards because the weaknesses of elite-level monsters only have a rough range. In the past, the weakness of desert lizards was determined to be from the lower abdomen to the upper right shoulder, and the entire range may contain weaknesses. To determine the location of the other party's weaknesses, Sufan deliberately blocked the first blow and, with the help of close observation, determined that the weakness of this lizard was at its rib. Although the initial perception of swordsman is high, reaching a total of 6 points, which is higher than the perception of most professions, it is also impossible to achieve spatial judgment. The distance between the two must be within 1 meter. By relying on perceptual ability to peek into the details of the other person's skin, one can make a judgment. If the perception is increased to 30 points and the mindfulness skill is obtained, there is no need to be so troublesome. You can observe details from afar. All of this was within Sufan's expectations, and when he chopped off the shoulder of the lizard, the victory Libra had already fallen to him. Bang! Sufan got close to the lizard beast, which was in a semi-disabled state due to damage to its parts, and its movements were not smooth enough to catch up with Sufan, who had full sensitivity and previous life experience. 6.5 Sufan kept chopping and avoiding the lizard's counterattack, using his skills to engage in guerrilla combat, gradually weakening the opponent's health. In the end, under the almost miraculous gaze of the audience, Sufan struck the opponent's heart and cleared the last bit of health. Bang! The desert lizard exploded and became a star, blending heavily into Sufan's body, transforming into his skill experience. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Reputation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Reputation, Tip. You have killed the desert lizard, LV.4/elite level, and if you exceed the level, your reward will increase significantly. Tip. Due to the characteristics of the Twilight Fighting Arena, the experience points you have obtained have been converted into skill experience. A reminder came from Sufan's ear that in the next second, a large number of star points would merge into his body, enhancing the swordsman's skills. Because Sufan only had one spike sword technique on his body, all his experiences were absorbed by it. In just a few seconds, the level of spike sword technique climbed from LV.1 to LV.5, triggering derivative effects. Tip. The sword piercing style has been upgraded to LV.5, triggering derivative effects. Please choose from the following effects. Sufan was not in a hurry to choose. He first closed the panel and then looked towards the arena. Due to the desert lizard being killed by him, the arena did not explode with a light point representing skill experience for the upper audience to enjoy, as it did last time. On the contrary, this time, the skill experience light point was exclusively consumed by Sufan. This is the characteristic of the Twilight Fighting Arena. If the challenge fails and the player dies, the character's level will be lowered by 1. This is the death penalty for each player. At the same time, the experience gained from death will be converted into equal skill experience for players in the audience to enjoy. If the challenge is successful, the challenger will enjoy all the experience, and the experience of killing the entire desert lizard will become a delicacy for the challenger. Sufan enjoyed the entire experience exclusively, and as a swordsman profession, he had a talent specialty called sword practitioner. The growth rate of swordsmanship skills increased by 30%, which also affected this harvest. Therefore, Sufan's sword stabbing style was able to rise to LV.5. Normally, ordinary players who want to upgrade their skills to LV.5 only rely on wild monster hunting. I'm afraid the character needs to reach LV.10, his skill level, in order to reach this level. In the case of using only one skill, if used separately, the skill upgrade will be slower. The vast majority of players have skill levels that are only half or even 1/3 of the characters, and their skills are absurdly low. Sufan's skill level is even higher than the characters, which is definitely a rare exception. The players in the audience looked at each other, still unable to recover from the shock. What happened just now? A level 0 player who challenges the Sandguard trial. And you also succeeded. Oh my god. This is a desert lizard beast, an elite level monster. Even players at the same level are not its opponents. Didn't you see that the previous level 4 knight died suddenly? 0 level newcomer, still a swordsman, not a dominant profession in the early stages. Everyone fell into a dead silence. If it weren't for what happened in front of them, no one would have dared to believe that a level 0 player who could challenge and complete the Sandguard trial would have thought the other party was talking nonsense and living an April Fool's Day joke. But the facts are presented in front of them, and they cannot be refuted or denied. Of course, Sufan didn't have time to care about other people's ideas because he received new hints. Tip. You have completed the Sandguard trial and have obtained a new identity. Desert Guard, Black Flame Principality. Tip. The reputation of your faction has been improved, and your relationship with the Black Flame Duchy has become friendly. Tip. You can go to the military supplies officer's office to receive a new recruit reward. Looking at the prompt on the panel, Sufan breathed a sigh of relief. His goal had been achieved and he passed the assessment to become the Desert Guard of the Black Flame Duchy. Although the Desert Guard is the lowest level faction identity, in the early stages of the game, within the scope of Juyan town, this identity was extremely helpful to him. Moreover, the Desert Guard comes with the friendly reputation of the Black Flame Duchy, saving him time to brush up on faction reputation. In the old god world, there are two ways to gain faction reputation. The first type is to brush special tasks, which are difficult to find and are basically hidden deep. Except for Sufan, everyone else has no idea how to trigger it. The second type is to obtain camp identity. Different camp identities come with initial reputation. For example, Desert Guards carry a reputation of friendliness. If your reputation is lower than it, it will increase to a friendly level when you obtain status. Players who have chosen the Black Flame Duchy are born as Black Flame citizens, but their reputation as citizens is ordinary, 2 levels lower than Desert Guards, and the difference between the two is not small. The initial reputation was divided into hostile, aloof, ordinary, good, friendly. There are levels above friendliness, which players cannot reach in the early stages. Basically, friendliness is the highest reputation they can obtain. Sufan used a shortcut in his identity to gain the friendly reputation of the Black Flame Duchy. This is enough to make the players in the audience envious. They are too aware of how difficult this Sandguard trial is, and everyone is prepared to rise to LV.5 before considering challenging it. I obtained the identity of a guard before the trial ended. Sufan rubbed his wrist and looked at the audience on the arena, unable to help but sigh inwardly. If he remembers correctly, follow the trajectory of his past life. On the second day he logged in the early morning of tomorrow, Juyan town suddenly ended the Sandguard trial, causing the group of players who were preparing to reach level 5 and then participate in the assessment to beat their chests and feet, one by one regretting. According to the storyline party, it is possible that the Black Flame Duchy became aware of the invasion of Outland and began to be on guard in advance, ending the recruitment of desert guards. In addition, the senior members of the professional guild were also aware of the invasion incident, and very few of their members came to obtain the identity of desert guards. Therefore, players with desert guard status in their past lives can be said to be rare. Even a few people were later forcibly assigned tasks due to the invasion incident, resulting in heavy losses and even loss of identity. However, these did not affect Sufan's decision. There are still 3 days left before the invasion, and he has enough time to maximize the benefits of his identity as a desert guard. After the trial, Sufan's feet lit up with starlight and he was teleported out of the arena. At the same time, Sprite in the audience stared blankly at the arena, her gaze fixed like everyone else, and she had not yet regained her senses. Suddenly, someone called out, "That spectator, challenge 1. So, isn't our skill reward gone?" As soon as these words were spoken, the whole room suddenly fell silent, completely silent. You should know that 50 copper coins are not cheap. At least in the early stages, it was a huge sum of money. Even if they were old players, they had to spend several hours playing wild monsters to earn it back. To waste a game in vain is equivalent to losing 1/3 of their earnings, which can be extremely painful for them. After understanding this point, the veteran players in the audience were even more distressed. As a result, someone asked again. "That spectator is clearly only level 0, isn't he a newcomer? He has a maximum initial capital of 20 copper coins. The challenge of the Sandguard trial requires the payment of 50 copper coins. How did he gather enough money?" This question seems to be a soul questioning, which is deafening and also makes the remaining players in the audience lower their heads to think. Schwa 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 schwa, Sprite felt something was wrong with the atmosphere. She turned her head and saw that some of the players who had lined up earlier had recognized his appearance. They looked at her with gloomy eyes, with a hint of anger and frustration in their eyes. After leaving the arena, Sufan reappeared at the entrance. At this moment, the 2 desert guards who were originally guarding the entrance of the arena nodded their heads as soon as they saw him come out. This is the benefit brought by the reputation of friendliness. In the perception of these desert guards, they are colleagues and close friends who fight together with guns. Naturally, they are much more friendly. In contrast, their attitude towards ordinary players is like a cloud of mud. If Sufan has free time, go ask them if there is anyone in Juyan town who needs help. These desert guards will also enthusiastically reveal information to Sufan, telling him that the residents of those small towns are in need of help from others. Follow the prompts to chat and it will definitely trigger related tasks. This is much more efficient than finding people to chat on the street. This is a skill for advanced players. Even the members of professional guilds and the group of beta testers have not yet mastered the skills. However, Sufan did not delay the time, he still has more important things to attend to. Please take me to find the military supplies officer. No problem. The desert guards had no doubt, as one person led Sufan away while the other stayed behind to continue guarding the door, under the astonished gaze of the queuing players. This unexpected move immediately caused a huge uproar, and some players looked up at Sufan's back with their long necks raised. Hello, what did I just see? There's a desert guard who actually left with the player. He's lying in a slot. Did he trigger a mission? Impossible. How many times have others talked to the desert guards guarding the door? They have tried countless times before, and no one can trigger the mission. I don't believe it. When everyone was in a discussion, suddenly an old player with LV.4 on his head hesitated and said. Could it be that he passed the Sandguard trial? He became a member of the Desert Guard and received preferential treatment. It's impossible, he's only level 0. This statement is more effective than any evidence, and the person who originally suggested shook their head. Indeed, the difficulty of the Sandguard trial is obvious to all. Without LV.5 strength, it is unlikely to win it. Even LV.4 requires very elite experts, and only members of professional guilds can meet this standard. But the person just now had LV.0 on their head, and this level cannot pass the Sandguard trial. Thinking about this, everyone realized that the observer was most likely the first possibility, which triggered the task. So, just as they were about to go talk to the desert guards at the door and see if they could trigger the mission. Because the crowd was too noisy, and coupled with the excellent intelligent logic of the desert guards as plot characters, they coldly scanned them after hearing their words and snorted, "Shut up, no loud noise is allowed in front of the arena." Additionally, You are not allowed to slander your colleagues. Next time, you will be locked down for half a day. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was amazed and saw the excellent intelligence of the desert guards. At the same time, they also realized one thing. That viewer I really passed the Sandguard trial. With the strength of a level 0 player. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Dragon Bone Relics. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 5 Dragon Bone Relics. Sufan followed the desert guards all the way to the front of the military supplies officer. This is the Huangsha Church in Juyan town, where troops loyal to the Black Flame Duchy, also known as Desert Guards, are stationed. "Colleague, please receive your reward," the military supplies officer kindly said to him. Sufan's gaze followed him, seeing several scrolls on the table. However, Sufan was not in a hurry to take action, but instead remembered an interesting incident before he entered the door. Due to his status as a guardian and his friendly reputation, Sufan was not obstructed when he entered the Huangsha Church. On the contrary, there were some scattered players on the street who saw him enter the church. However, a girl followed him and was stopped by the desert guards. At present, within the scope of Juyan town, the number of people eligible to enter Huangsha Church may not exceed 2 digits. After all, Juyan town is not the capital of the Haiyan Principality. The top guilds are stationed in the main city of Haiyan, with only third and fourth-rate professional guilds. They chose other novice towns as their birthplaces, and the high-level players of the first tier are not here. There are only a few experts above LV.5. Retrieving his thoughts, Sufan looked at several scrolls on the table: Sword Seal, Spirit Blade, Parry. There are a total of 3 skill scrolls for swordsmanship, which are rare skills in the swordsman profession. After becoming a desert guard, you can receive a rare skill from your profession, which is one of 3. Before level 10, the swordsman profession had only 3 rare skills, so Sufan was confident that he could obtain the Spirit Blade skill. Among these 3 rare skills, Sword Seal is an enchanted skill that increases general attack damage and is suitable for long-term monster brushing, increasing the early output of the swordsman. Parry, to block enemies' fatal damage, suitable for dungeon strategy, it has a special effect when fighting against bosses. The Spirit Blade has the most special effect, which can convert mana points into sword energy for medium-range sword attacks. Sufan's gaze froze on the Spirit Blade, which was the only medium-range attack technique that the swordsman profession could obtain in the early stages. Moreover, not only swordsmen, but even if other melee professions are included, skills with medium-range attack techniques are rare. I choose this reward. Without hesitation, Sufan took away the skill scroll representing the Spirit Blade in front of the military supply officer. In the old god world, players can learn professional skills in 3 ways. The first type is through skill scrolls, which come from monster spawning drops on wilderness maps or as mission rewards. The second type is through personal teaching by vocational mentors, but vocational mentors are only available in the capital of the 12 Duchy. As for the third approach, certain special plot characters can also teach skills, but the prerequisites are often strict and hidden deeply. Spirit Blade required profession. Swordsman, no level requirement, attribute requirement. 9 agility points. After receiving the scroll, Sufan gently rubbed it, and the skill scroll turned into a star, integrating into his body. Tip. Successful judgment, you have learned the Spirit Blade LV.1, on Sufan's panel, a new skill immediately appeared. Spirit Blade LV.1. After activating the skill, convert your own mana into sword energy, consuming 4 mana points per minute. If the remaining mana is less than 4 points, it will automatically close. The damage of each sword energy is 0.8 times that of a normal attack plus 0.1 times that of agility. Note: this skill can be upgraded to experience by absorbing sword chi type scrolls. After reading the information, Sufan nodded with satisfaction. He finally obtained the Spirit Blade skill, coupled with the Spike Sword technique, LV.5, and was qualified to execute the rapidly upgraded side storyline. At that moment, he bid farewell to the military supplies officer and turned to leave the Huangsha church. Colleague, the recent Juyan town is clearing the defense line. If you are interested, you can ask Guard Captain Claude. Before leaving, the military supplies officer behind shouted at him, much like a wedge for a plot mission. Upon hearing these words, Sufan's heart moved slightly. In his previous life, he only had the identity of a Black Flame citizen and had no opportunity to contact the military supplies officer in the Desert Guard, let alone ask the other party to proactively remind him of some tasks. It is not difficult to infer from the information leaked by the military supplies officer that the church forces in Juyan town have secretly taken action. Can it be said that they had anticipated the invasion of the 7th divine domain long ago? That's right, according to the original trajectory, the Sandguard trial will end tomorrow morning. In other words, the influence of the church may have been anticipated earlier, and the warning words of the military supply officers further support this point. It is worth mentioning here that the Haiyan Duchy is a divine mandate of monarchy, and the state religion is faith. The founder of the country, Grand Duke Sinis, was not only the Grand Duke conferred by the divine descendants, but also the Pope. His descendants also inherited this, while also inheriting the positions of Duke and Pope, maintaining a highly centralized way of governance. Therefore, the church power in Juyan town is the military, and it is the same in other cities, including the main city of Haiyan. Sufan shook his head and refused the military supplies officer's kindness in his heart. If he is not a reborn one, he will definitely accept it gladly. Unfortunately, Sufan has more important things to do, so he needs to level up first. Strength is the foundation of everything. In their past lives, some players were lucky enough to trigger storyline missions, but their strength was insufficient. During the execution of the missions, they ultimately suffered a disastrous failure. Not only do characters die, equipment and experience suffer heavy losses, but it also leads to the disbandment of storyline missions, reducing the favorability of relevant forces towards them, and even being in a state of hostility towards the camp. Storytelling missions represent high returns, but also come with high risks. We still need 3 parts of the Cold Mist device. Sufan left the Huangsha church and sold all his newbie bread at the grocery store in Juyan town for 3 copper coins. He also purchased 3 sets of cold fog devices from the grocer, prepared everything, and arrived at the wilderness map outside the town. Tip: you have arrived at Dragon Bone Wilderness, and the challenge level on this map is LV.2. Looking up, one can see endless wilderness with occasional oases standing tall. However, Sufan is aware of those oases, most of which are strongholds of troll tribes, with an average level of LV.3 or above. In the early stages of the game, wild players mainly focus on leveling up by brushing monsters, with their goal being scattered monster groups on the wilderness. There are team-organized studios, and they are more inclined to conquer oases where there are troll tribes and treasure chests guarded by them. But Sufan's goal is not both. After arriving at the Dragon Bone Wilderness, he identified the direction and headed towards the coordinates in his memory. Dragon Bone Wilderness. Y453, X74, Z16. These are the map coordinates that Sufan remembers, which are related to the big secrets of Dragon Bone Wilderness and a very important side storyline. Along the way, Sufan could see many individual players and a small number of studios. If it weren't for his exceptional memory, he probably wouldn't have recognized those people as members of the studio. After all, at this stage, they seem too unfamiliar and their team cooperation is not well coordinated. The so-called studios are small organizations without the support of financial conglomerates. They are more professional than individual players, but the upper limit is not high. People who are often prone to tipping over due to their shortcomings compared to others are often studios. On the way, Sufan even saw a studio that had been destroyed by the team, but had been attacked by a strategic oasis. The trolls chased after him, causing the surrounding players to scatter and flee, giving off a sense of panic and recklessness. Faced with this scene, Sufan did not dare to stay for a long time. Even if he could single out the desert lizard, it did not mean that he could successfully survive the siege of the group of monsters. After all, 2 fists were difficult to defeat 4 hands. Moreover, he has not yet reached level 10, has not advanced to become a secret swordsman, and his professional skills are not perfect enough. The swordsman system has not yet fully developed. Even the reborn, facing the vast sea of monsters, can only temporarily avoid the sharpness. Half an hour later, he dodged the monster group all the way, and finally, Sufan arrived at the predetermined coordinate location. Ahead, there is an oasis that has long declined, with a dry pool and surrounding trees appearing brownish yellow. There are also large trees that have completely withered away, and the surrounding sand is also eroding this oasis. In the center of the oasis, there is a semi-collapsed classical seaboat with a very large outline, even larger than the church in Juyan town, making it difficult to imagine the magnificent scene before its destruction. But at this moment, the entire oasis exudes a sense of death. Even the troll tribes stationed in the oasis seem to have no interest in such places, and their tents have not been found in this oasis. Without hesitation, Sufan walked into this decaying oasis, passed through dry forests, and arrived at the door of the classical seaboat. In the darkness of the half-collapsed ship gate, accompanied by Sufan's approach, suddenly, a voice rang out, "Adventurer, are you also pursuing ancient traces when you come to this place alone?" The voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't been drinking water for a long time, causing friction in her vocal cords. At the same time, Sufan finally arrived at the door and saw the cloaked person leaning against the decaying boat planks, half curled up in the shadow, with a red hair falling from her shoulders, but appearing dry and restless. With the help of the moonlight, Sufan saw her appearance, which was not particularly beautiful, but her eyebrows and sword eyes exuded a fierce aura all over her body. "Madam, it seems you need some help," Sufan said with a prepared draft. Upon hearing these words, the red-haired lady looked up at his waist and murmured, "Do you have any water?" "Of course." Sufan reached out and swiped, opened his backpack, and took out a bottle of clean drinking water from it. This is his newbie supplies. When each newbie is born, in addition to 20 copper coins, the backpack comes with 3 portions of bread and 10 bottles of clean drinking water, which can restore health and mana points respectively. Of course, they must be consumed in a non-combat state. The only recovery items that can be taken in combat mode are the secret medicine that grants blessings. In the early stages of the game, it is difficult for ordinary players to obtain the secret medicine. The lady with red hair requested water. As long as this concept is met, whether it is the drinking water brought by the newcomer or the precious secret medicine, it can meet her requirements. Taking the clean drinking water, the lady with red hair hurriedly opened the bottle cap and poured it into her mouth. A few seconds later, she finished drinking the clean drinking water and said, "Wow, adventurer, I owe you a favor. I'm sorry, I don't have anything valuable on me, so I can't repay your gift. However, I have an ancient intelligence. Perhaps it will be helpful to you. Are you interested? Here we go." Sufan's heart moved, and his goal was precisely this. More precisely, it should be the intelligence from the secret hunter Sophia. The red-haired lady in front of me, her real name is Sophia, and her identity is a well-known treasure hunter. Secret hunters, some like ancient bounty hunters, are different in that they pursue ancient treasures, while bounty hunters only follow the bounty order to hunt the corresponding bounty targets, one targeting relics and the other targeting living people. The reason why the other party was guarding the sunken ship was also very simple. Sophia discovered a hidden clue and encountered setbacks in the ancient ruins below the sunken ship. She had to return to the sunken ship above with injuries. And on her body, there is a side storyline that requires players to go to the ancient ruins below, hunt down a relic mechanism beast for her, and obtain the mechanical core dropped by the opponent as evidence to give to her. This intelligence comes from the Moa Guild, where a member accidentally discovered and triggered this mission. In their previous life, the Moa Guild was one of the dominant forces in Juyan town, a professional-level guild. They relied on their own support from the Thmosha, in reality, had abundant funds, and were also rampant in Old God. Their style was domineering, and they could easily occupy the training points in the wilderness. We are still clearing out wild players without backgrounds or low-end studios, which means killing characters and forcing them to return to the city. There were several times when Sufan was practicing in the wilderness, he was also forcibly cleared by the Moa Guild. Because Old God has a death penalty, each time a character dies, their level drops. In his past life, Sufan was only able to climb to LV.2 when he invaded the Outland. This was thanks to the contribution of the Moa Guild, as he was forcefully killed by the opponent once, which resulted in his already lagging level training progress and further lagging behind. From then on, he slipped into the abyss and struggled at the bottom for more than half a year. In view of this, Sufan seized the opportunity that originally belonged to the Moa Guild without any psychological burden. There is even a kind of sleeping and taking happiness. No problem, I am willing to accept this reward, Sufan replied. Whether in terms of language, demeanor, or reply mode, Sufan is very close to the indigenous people of the Old God world because he knows that even if the mission is triggered the same, if players integrate more into the Old God world, sometimes they will receive unexpected rewards. In the past life, every high-level professional player, especially the Saint, was a master in role-playing. Upon hearing this reply, Sophia's lips curved upwards, and in an instant, she began to speak. I am a treasure hunter, Sophia, loyal to the Song of Gold organization and working towards the promotion of a treasure master. Not long ago, I learned a secret message from my colleagues. It is said that there is a relic on the Dragon Bone Wilderness outside Juyan town, originating from the previous era, the Second Age, where ancient dragons and giants ruled the world, burying an ancient and mysterious era. If I could decipher that relic, perhaps it could bring me surprises. The surprise of being promoted to the Master of Secrets. The ship behind me has ancient ruins beneath it. At this point, Sophia's tone paused for a moment, with a hint of shame on her face. She lowered her head and said, "But there's bad news, I unfortunately fell into a trap while exploring the ruins. I carry a curse on my body. The good news is that I have taken on the curse trap and the underground ruins have been opened to the public. If you are willing to explore the ruins, this intelligence will be my reward. However, I have one more request. I hope you can help me collect a mechanical core. As Sophia's words fell, a voice triggered the mission came to Sufan's ear. Tip. You have triggered the Elite storyline event. Dragon Bone Ruins, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. Upgrading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Upgrading Elite Level Event. Sufan received a hint and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. It seems that his memory is correct. There are indeed elite level plot events hidden in this hidden hunter. Elite level events are enough to make professional guilds envious. In the Old God world, players can receive tasks at different levels. Under normal circumstances, most ordinary players trigger delegation, which does not belong to the plot event but can be executed repeatedly. For example, in the streets of Juyan town, there are indigenous people with shops, and players can receive commissions from them. Most of the content is to collect materials, and the rewards are average, with the advantage of being repeatable. But above the commission, it is the plot event, also known as the side plot. The level of plot events is divided into normal level, elite level, adventure level. In the early stages of the game, a regular level event is enough for players to grab their heads and blood, because the triggering of plot events is difficult, and each one is hidden very discreetly. The reason why side plots are called side plots is because of their concealment. Just like Juyan town, such a huge place of birth. At the current stage, the plot events hidden in Juyan town do not exceed 2 digits, and most of them have prerequisite conditions. Triggering events is very cumbersome, which is why Sufan does not execute them. Unless it is a global mainline, the prerequisite requirements are very low. The situation of the world's main storyline and the plot branch is completely opposite. It is the main storyline of the entire region, just like the invasion of the 7th Divine Realm. When the invasion plot breaks out, all players in the Black Flame Kingdom, as long as there is no treason, will inevitably trigger the world's main storyline. In other words, when the 7th Divine Realm invades 3 days later, whether it is Sufan, an ordinary player, or a member of a professional guild, they will all receive the same world mainline and be drawn into the catastrophe. If the world's main storyline is a collective task that affects every player in the camp, then the storyline side is a single-player task that only high-level players can trigger, allowing them to distance themselves from ordinary players. This is particularly evident in professional guilds and ordinary people. Taking back his thoughts, Sufan nodded and decisively took on the task. Miss Sophia, I am willing to accept this task. Dragon Bone Ruins, Elite Level, Content Requirement. Bring back a copy of the Mechanical Core. Reward. Secret Hunter Sophia's Favorability, a Forging Blueprint, Weapon. After taking on the task, Sufan walked into the cabin under her gaze and discovered the secret passage left by Sophia. He followed the steps and entered the underground environment, where the surrounding rock walls became increasingly damp and had a faint smell of decay. Skill List. Before entering the underground ruins, Sufan opened the character panel and clicked on the skill list. During the Sandguard trial, Sufan, relying on his own strength, killed the desert lizard, LV.4, and the experience points of killing the opponent were converted into corresponding skill experience by the Twilight Fighting Arena, allowing his spike sword style to break through to LV.5, surpassing players of the same level. In addition, Sufan's stab sword style also triggered a derivative effect in LV.5. He just didn't have time to allocate extra points on the arena. At present, just before entering the underground ruins, the derivative effects of the stab sword style have been determined. Tip. Please select one of the following abilities as a derivative effect. 1. The swordsmanship effect is upgraded to paralysis, and a paralysis judgment is performed on the hit person. 2. Increase the basic damage of the spike sword technique and enhance the bonus effect of agility. 2 derivative effects, each inclined towards different tactics, the first focusing more on controlling the enemy, and the second increasing basic damage. As a lone ranger, unlike a member of a professional guild, I cannot have any weaknesses in my personal abilities. Control, output, escape, and even individual recovery cannot be lacking in all aspects. The first derivative effect happens to provide strong control capabilities, suitable for my situation. Sufan no longer hesitated and chose the first derivative effect. Tip. If selected successfully, your stabbing sword style will receive a derivative effect. 1. On the character panel, Sufan's skills have been updated to Spike Sword LV.5. Deals 30 points plus 1.2x agility damage to the target, with a certain probability of causing paralysis. The higher the user's agility, the lower the opponent's physique, and the higher the probability of paralysis. Compared to the LV.1 period, the basic damage of Spike Sword increased to LV.5, and the stiffness effect was upgraded to paralysis. The difference between the two is that paralysis and rigidity have the same effect, which can make the target unable to move. However, in addition, paralysis can also reduce the target's defense and indirectly improve the user's output efficiency, which can be seen as an upgraded version of the rigidity effect. Because paralysis can also improve output effects, Sufan considered and chose derivative effect, 1. As long as he achieves a paralyzing effect, the cost-effectiveness is higher than the derivative effect, 2. Derivative effects are the core of high-level skills. When players elevate their skills to a certain level, there are derivative effects. Depending on the choice of branch, even players from the same profession have completely different skill compositions and matching systems. This is the charm of the world of Old God, full of infinite possibilities for evolution. Sufan turned off the panel, and at this moment, he had reached the end of the steps. In front of him was a bronze gate, with huge doors open on both sides. Water droplets were dripping from the cold and damp rock walls, falling into the shallow pool on the ground, reflecting the ripples of Sufan's figure. Inside the bronze gate, there is a dark grey corridor, where several peculiar figures can be faintly seen wandering. Ruin mechanism beasts. Sufan guessed the origin of these figures, which were the target of the plot event. Ruin mechanism beasts. After killing the opponent, they would drop the mechanical core that Sophia needed. The information about the relic mechanism beast also surfaced in his heart, LV.5 health level, elite level template, more powerful than desert lizards on the arena. Under normal circumstances, Sufan's character level is not qualified to challenge them, even if they know their weaknesses. After all, a level 5 suppression is enough to turn Sufan's damage into single digits. However, this situation can be improved after the spike sword style is upgraded to LV.5. Sufan slowly approached the monster in the corridor with a cautious posture. The perception range of relic mechanism beasts is about 3 meters, in other words, only by stepping into this range will they attract their hate attacks. The distance between this group of mechanism beasts is between 4 and 6 meters, and with their irregular wandering, this distance may vary, but it basically does not exceed 6 meters. This means that they are not only single-bodied beasts that crush Sufan, but also a rare group of monsters. Monster groups refer to wild monsters that gather in clusters. If someone is not careful enough when drawing hatred, it is easy to provoke a large group, commonly known as poking a hornet's nest. For ordinary players, the ones they are most afraid of encountering are monster groups. But not including Sufan. As a reborn individual with previous life experience, Sufan has a very precise grasp of distance. Just less than 4 meters away from the first mechanism beast, Sufan suddenly stopped in his tracks. At the next moment, he took out the pre-purchased cold mist device from his backpack and placed it on the edge of his feet to activate the device. A pale cold mist ignited and permeated around Sufan's body. Thanks to the almost perfect sensory simulation of Old God, he can clearly feel the chill coming, and the temperature on his body also decreases. As a virtual game that is extremely close to physical laws and reality, and even indistinguishable, it is worthy of the title of Second World. The next second, Sufan raised his long sword and fiercely slashed towards the enemy 3 meters away. Juyan. Driven by the spirit blade, the mana value inside the body is converted into sword energy, and a sword shadow appears in a dark blue color, accurately cutting onto the body of the relic mechanism beast. The latter's head shows a bright red number of 0.5, and its body cannot help but stumble. The sword energy transformed by the spirit blade, in LV.1 stage, has an attack range of exactly 4 meters, which is 1 meter more than the range of the relic mechanism beast's enemy. Under attack, the relic mechanism beast instinctively turned its head, and the crimson core on its body rotated a few times, but no trace of the enemy was found. Because the perception of the relic mechanism beast comes from thermal sensors, commonly known as thermal imaging, but Sufan activated the cold mist device, a small craft made from goblins, which greatly reduces the temperature on the body, leading to errors in the perception of the relic mechanism beast. In this way, the relic mechanism beast can only spin around in place because it cannot find the position of its enemy, just like a blindfolded child being grabbed and bullied by peers, but helpless. All of this is thanks to the cold fog device. Under normal circumstances, this kind of thing is a small prop used to decorate the wedding venue. In the marriage ceremony of Goblin civilization, they will like to use this little thing to add a joyful atmosphere to the marriage, just like fireworks in the real world. But no one could have imagined that ordinary players in their past lives were creative and had a genius with many clever ideas. They discovered that using the cold mist device could affect the perception of relic mechanism beasts, thereby achieving harmless monster brushing. Of course, your profession had to be a long-range attack. In general, in the early stages of the game, only coders and archers can perform long-range attacks. After obtaining the Spirit Blade skill, Sufan's own attack also transformed into medium range, barely reaching beyond the range of the relic mechanism beast's enemy-seeking ability. Coupled with the shielding effect of the cold mist device, he was able to brush monsters without damage. Shwa! 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 Sufan continuously poured out his sword energy, hitting the body of the relic mechanism beast. Suddenly, he had a sword light in his hand, which was thicker than the previous sword energy. The deep blue color was similar to pitch black, symbolizing its uniqueness. It is the spike sword style, LV.5, that can also be converted into sword energy attacks by the Spirit Blade. Bang! The stabbing sword style hit the core of the relic mechanism beast, and the latter's body shook, triggering a paralyzed state. The entire mechanical body collapsed. Next, Sufan's sword energy attack hit it, and each wave could deal double-digit damage. 12.15.13 The damage continuously emanates from the head of the mechanism beast, and its health is also decreasing step by step. Due to the paralysis that reduces defense, Sufan's output has almost doubled, and his killing power has greatly increased. If you choose the derivative effect, 2, to increase the basic damage of the stab sword style, it may not have such a good effect. After all, the stabbing sword style is just that, while the sword energy damage converted from regular attacks is continuous, enjoying the benefits of reducing defense. The relic mechanism beast is a type of monster resembling a water spider, with thick limbs that climb the ground and look quite ferocious. In the center of its body, there is a bright red mechanical core, which is both a thermal sensor for observing enemies and its weakness. Sufan launched the spike sword technique and hit its weakness, increasing the success rate of judgment. Even if there was a 5-level difference between the two, it successfully triggered a paralyzed state. In addition, using skills will consume mana and have a certain cooldown time based on the character's attributes. The stab sword style cannot be used continuously. With Sufan's physical attributes, it can be reused approximately every 40 seconds. As for the mana value, due to his use of the Spirit Blade, the mana value is consumed quickly. However, the health of the relic mechanism beast drops faster. Before his mana value is about to dry up, the body of the mechanism beast shakes and explodes into scattered stars. Tip: you have killed the relic mechanism beast, LV.5/elite level, and if you exceed the level, your reward will increase significantly. Tip: you have gained 1200 experience points, boom. Sufan's body lit up with a golden light, rising directly to LV.2. In just a few minutes, he surpassed the strength that others would take 2 days to advance to. At the same time, this was also the character level that he had spent 3 days in his previous life to reach. Rebirth into this world, Sufan only took 2 hours to obtain all of this. After all, no one else can do the same as him, to single-kill relic mechanism beasts at level 0, crossing a full 5 levels. This is just the beginning. Sufan raised his head and turned his gaze to the ground where the starlight had dissipated, where there were dropped items from the relic mechanism beasts. In the distance of the corridor, there were a group of relic mechanism beasts wandering around. In Sufan's eyes, the latter was a mobile experience pack. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Reincarnations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Reincarnations. After reaching LV.2, Sufan put away his long sword and then picked up the cold mist device on the ground. Each cold mist device lasts for 15 minutes. Just now, he killed the first mechanism beast, which took about 5 minutes. Including the rest time in between, a cold mist device is enough for him to kill 2 mechanism beasts. Before leaving Juyan town, Sufan purchased 3 cold mist devices, enough for him to clear the mechanism beasts on this long corridor. After the cold mist device was completely depleted, Sufan had to consider evacuating, as he had no restorative items on him. He even sold the bread brought by the newcomer to the grocery store in exchange for corresponding copper coins before purchasing 3 cold mist devices. He drank clean water and left a few bottles, enough for him to quickly recover his mana. While drinking clean water, Sufan arrived at the site of the death of the relic mechanism beast and reached out to touch the fallen light ball. The light clustered dispersed and revealed a pure black steel longsword, causing Sufan's eyelids to jump slightly and quickly look at the attribute. Black Steel Sword Attribute. Attack Power +4, Strength +1, effective below 10 points of strength. Quality. Black Iron Grade Rating. 17, Black Iron Rating is 10.20 points, Equipment Requirement. Swordsman, LV.2, Introduction. Steel weapons from the ancient civilization of Candace. In the Second Age, during the ancient era when humans were subordinate to the twin race, weapons engraved with the Candace civilization were enough to deter other races from trespassing, as the Candace civilization was a relative of the ancient dragons. Black Iron Level Weapons. Sufan's eyes lit up, it seemed that he was lucky enough to drop a black iron weapon. Of course, there is also a reward bonus for killing mechanism beasts at level 0. In the judgment mechanism of the old god world, players kill high-level monsters, especially special monsters higher than their own level, and the probability of dropping equipment is greatly increased. In addition, the relic mechanism beast belongs to the product of the Kantian civilization and happens to be skilled in refining swords. Various reasons combined, but Sufan found a loophole and obtained his first dropped equipment since entering the old god world. Equipment is divided into quality categories, from low to high, which are gray equipment, gray and white, black iron level, bronze level, silver level. Before level 10, the highest equipment quality was bronze level. But in fact, even gray equipment is very rare, and ordinary players can get 1 or 2 gray equipment, which is already a good level. Just like the sprite that Sufan encountered before entering the arena. Although the opponent is LV.4, they do not have the appearance of black iron equipment, which is not much different from ordinary newcomers. Sufan saw the appearance of the equipment from him, all of which were beginner suits, with only the clothing part, suspected to be gray equipment dropped from the wild. This is the norm for individual groups. Replace equipment. After replacing the attribute-free novice long sword with the black steel sword, Sufan's panel was greatly increased. After all, in the power system of Old God, players need to level up every 5 levels to gain potential points. In other words, the only way for the vast majority of people to improve their panels before level 5 is to replace equipment. But the equipment explosion rate of Old God is very low. A black iron level early weapon is enough to make professional guilds envious, even attempting to seize equipment through fierce outdoor battles. Not to mention being a solo player, it can definitely make them envy the separation of quality walls. Sufan grabbed a sword flower and, taking advantage of the effect of the cold mist device, walked towards the next relic mechanism beast. After a brief rest, his mana has been fully restored and he can start a new round of monster attraction actions. Juyan. Another familiar sword attack, but this time, Sufan's ordinary attack hit the mechanism beast, and the number on the opponent's head was no longer a single digit, but a bright red 2-digit number. 13, EP1-10.15.12 but this time, Sufan did not release the stab sword style to give the mechanism beast a paralyzing effect and reduce the enemy's defense. This means that Sufan's output effect, with the blessing of the black steel sword, is comparable to an improvement in a paralyzed state. Thinking of this, Sufan's wrist trembled and he released the stabbing sword technique, hitting the weakness of the mechanism beast again. 27.30.28 The relic mechanism beast that has been paralyzed successfully and weakened in defense, deals around 30 points of damage with each sword strike. Compared to its previous output strength, the two are not at the same level. Due to the output almost doubling, Sufan only spent 2 minutes killing the second mechanism beast. As the starlight dispersed, Sufan's experience value also increased significantly, stopping at around 70% without upgrading. After all, Sufan is LV.2, with a greater demand for experience slots and only 3 levels behind the mechanism beast. The experience rewards are not as exaggerated as the first time. However, if this scene were seen by other players, it would be enough to make them jealous and crazy. Under normal circumstances, players will only challenge monsters of the same level in leveling. With each level increase, the difficulty increases by a geometric multiple. They do not have the tricks used by Sufan, and can only face hard. In a frontal battle, a relic mechanism beast, LV.5, which is at the elite level, requires at least 5 LV.3 players to cooperate with each other in order to have a chance to kill one mechanism beast. Of course, they cannot disturb other monsters. If it attracts the entire monster group, no matter how many people there are, they won't be enough to fill their lives. I don't know if it was due to the increase to LV.2 that caused the explosion rate to decrease, or if Sufan's Euro energy was depleted. This time, the equipment of the relic mechanism beast was not released again, and even the monster material was not released. In theory, in the case of killing monsters beyond the level, even if the equipment is not exploded, a monster material should still be dropped. Unfortunately, it's an empty car. However, Sufan has gained something else. When the starlight emitted by the mechanism beast successfully integrated into Sufan's body, in an instant, he became more proficient in mastering the spirit blade. This is a skill upgrade. Sufan's spirit blade has been upgraded to LV.2, and the skill experience comes from monster killing. To be precise, most of the skill upgrades for each player come from killing monsters. In addition to experience rewards, there is also a portion of skill rewards. But skill upgrades are much more difficult than characters. Sufan surpassed the level and killed 2 mechanism beasts, only then was he able to elevate his spirit blade to LV.2, and the difficulty level was evident. After reaching LV.2, the mana consumption of the spirit blade has decreased slightly, from 4 points per minute to 3 points. In addition, Sufan's output has increased. After killing the second mechanism beast, his mana value is still half, rather than completely emptying. Taking advantage of the cold fog device, with only 2 or 3 minutes left, Sufan did not hesitate and decisively killed the third mechanism beast. The third and the fourth and the fifth head 10 minutes later, Sufan's spirit blade was upgraded again, and his character had risen to LV.3. At the same time, his experience slot had accumulated to 84%, not far from the threshold of LV.4. Just as he was about to light the last cold mist device and deal with the last mechanical beast in the corridor, suddenly a warning sound came from the panel. Tip. Player Sprite has sent you a private chat request. Do you agree/disagree? Ha. Sufan was stunned for a moment, then recalled for a few seconds that this guy was the good man who had signed a contract with him in front of the arena, under the witness of the Eye of Judgment, and lent him 30 copper coins. What did he ask for from him? Are you here to collect debts? It shouldn't be. The contract states that the deadline is within 3 days, and the first day has not passed yet. By the way, Sprite and others bought audience tickets. Because of his successful challenge, looking at it from a different perspective, Sprite and others in the audience lost a profit. Sigh, a dozen or so copper coins were not a small sum in the early stages of the game, especially since the 6-star zone had not yet opened up currency exchange. Sufan thought of this and had some speculations about Sprite's intentions in his heart. However, he didn't take it to heart and directly clicked agree to the private chat. Anyway, the social functions in Bold God are very comprehensive, and private chat needs to be applied for. There is also a blacklist function. If Sufan doesn't want to pay attention to the other party, he can also choose to blackmail. Repayment of debt can be done through email, without the need for the other party's friends. Of course, the most important reason for Sufan's decision to agree to private chat is that Sprite is not from a professional guild background, but a standard wild player. When dealing with others, there is no need to worry too much. After the private conversation was connected, a bright blue dialog box immediately popped up in front of Sufan. Sprite. Boss, are you a reincarnator? You're too strong. Challenge and kill the desert lizard alone. Reincarnation. Sufan's heart moved and he thought of the large number of professional guilds supported by wealthy families during the Keifu period, which had made mutual infiltration in order to compete for control of different towns in the country, known as the Reincarnation Plan. It has been a week since the opening of Bold God in the 6-star area. During this period, professional guilds trained many elite players who were more proficient in combat skills than newcomers and even qualified to challenge dungeons. However, they chose to delete characters and create new ones in another region, a behavior known as reincarnation. Old God only allows players to have one character, and if they want to create a new character, they can only delete the original character. These reincarnations delete characters and create new ones elsewhere, but they are not idle and have a tendency towards self-abuse. But there is a professional guild behind them to support them, and reincarnations also bear the important task of collecting intelligence and exploring dungeons. These pieces of information are summarized to the professional guild behind them, which will determine the actions of the entire guild. For example, Sufan knew that the ambition of the Moa Guild was great. Although they are a third-rate guild and can only dominate within the territory of Juyan town, the Moa Guild has also planted many reincarnations in the capital of Haiyan Principality and the main city of Haiyan. Similarly, other guilds will only have more reincarnations in Juyan town than above. After all, according to the Book of Order, the division of wealthy families also affects the professional guilds they support. There are no more powerful guilds than the Moa guilds, and there are also dozens of guilds. It is not surprising that the reincarnations they arrange appear in Juyan town. Coincidentally, it can serve as an excuse for my identity. Sufan thought of this and replied directly to the other party. Observer. Yes, I am a reincarnation. Is there any problem with this? Sprite. No, no. The boss is indeed a reincarnation, and I guess it's right. Otherwise, no one would be able to challenge a desert lizard at level 0. Wait a moment. Lie down, boss, how can you level up to LV.3? During the previous private conversation, Sprite didn't pay attention to the situation. It wasn't until he reacted that he noticed that the level below Sufan's character avatar was actually displayed as LV.3. Oh my god. It seems that not long ago, the other party was level 0, right? In just a few hours, the viewer rose from 0 to LV.3, and this rocket-like speed really stunned Sprite. He can guarantee that if this information is leaked, not to mention individual players, even the two famous guilds in Juyan town, Tianlangsan Guild and Moa Guild, will be shocked and even shatter their gaming views. At present, no guild has mastered the secret of upgrading so quickly. If the viewer reveals his secret, there is no doubt that it can definitely affect the entire Juyan town. No, it should be said that the overall situation of the Black Flame Duchy greatly shortens the novice period, and the influence on low-level players is self-evident. Sprite thought this way. Of course, this idea just flashed in his mind. Such important information, even if he thinks from a different perspective, cannot be easily leaked. Moreover, this upgrade secret is likely to come from behind him, the mysterious guild. Thinking of this, Sprite became even more certain of her guess. Sure enough, that viewer is a reincarnation. Sprite. Boss, I just want to ask about the challenge techniques of desert lizards. Of course, I won't ask for them for free, but I will pay corresponding rewards. This is very important for our Greenthorn studio. A few brothers' skill levels are too low and they also need to have the identity of a guard. Sprite is very polite and puts his posture very low. Whether as a reincarnation or the combat skills displayed by the opponent, it is worth him to lower his figure and approach the opponent with a friendly attitude. As for the profit from the pitted battle, Sprite didn't take it to heart. Compared to the friendship of a big shot, the former was not worth mentioning. Qingji Studio, Sufan raised an eyebrow and had little impression of it. It seemed that the Qingji Studio in his previous life was not well known. This is normal. The number of players in Juyan town is close to 6 digits. In such a large group, it is impossible to casually encounter a few famous strong players from their past lives. Moreover, many strong players also come from opportunities. People who climbed from the bottom to the realm of saints like Sufan in their past lives are ultimately rare. Anyway, the Twilight Fighting Arena will be closed tomorrow, so there's no need to worry about the news spreading. Moreover, even if I tell them my skills, the people in Qingji Studio may not be able to complete the challenge. After a few seconds of contemplation, Sufan had an answer in his heart. Observer. Sure, I can use the 30 copper coins you lent me as compensation, isn't that excessive? Sprite. Of course. Are you sure, big shot, just this little reward? In Sprite's view, the secret to challenging desert lizards is far from being comparable to 30 copper coins, and their value is not on the same level. However, Sprite did not know that tomorrow morning, the Dusk Arena would close, and the entire Juyan town would cancel the Sandguard trial. The intelligence he received was only valid for half a day, not even a complete day. However, I have one more commission condition. Sufan paused for a moment and quickly typed in the text, if you can agree, I can also send you a secret message. There is an oasis on the Dragon Bone Wilderness, hiding in Flame Troll tribe called Flame Trolls, a mutant species in the troll's life that can drop skill scrolls for codex and swordsman. My request is very simple. If the swordsman's skill scroll is dropped, you should give it to me first. Sufan remembered one thing, which was that he had a large number of secrets in his hands. However, some secrets are not particularly valuable and are not worth exploring personally. These tasteless and regretful low-level secrets are a great benefit for ordinary players. If he could deceive some thugs and replace himself to uncover these secrets, then, you can extract a commission from it yourself to maximize your profits. Well, this operation is very capitalist. Sufan decided to take action. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Dark Room. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Dark Room. After listening to Sufan's conditions, Sprite did not hesitate and immediately agreed. No problem, big shot. Even in Sprite's heart, this is not a condition. A horde of flame trolls hidden in an oasis, worth far more than the swordsman scrolls. The additional experience and tribal treasure chest rewarded by simply killing the opponent are enough to drive ordinary players crazy. Sprite can be certain that this commission can be released, not to mention like the Qingji Studio behind them. Even the 2 major professional guilds in Juyan town should be deeply moved. After determining the conditions, Sprite in remote mode can directly apply for the Eye of Judgment witness and use the 30 copper coins on the contract as the message price, without the need for Sufan to repay. Correspondingly, Sufan will challenge the techniques of desert lizards, especially their weak points, and inform Sprite. However, even if Sprite and others succeed in the challenge, they cannot level up their skills like Sufan. After all, when they challenged, the character levels were all above LV.4, and there were no level skipping rewards. For ordinary players, challenging the arena before reaching level 4 is a self-destructive act. Not everyone can, like Sufan, have the confidence to seize the loopholes of desert lizards and defeat the enemy with one strike even in the state of a 0-level character. According to Sufan's judgment, it would be good if half of the people in the Greenthorn studio behind Sprite successfully challenged. As for the losers, they naturally dropped a character level and missed the Sandguard trial in their lifetime. Even the negative impact of character death would interfere with their early development. After all, 3 days later is the invasion plot of the 7th Divine Domain. Boss, I'm going to challenge the arena with the people from the studio, so I won't disturb your leveling. We will go to that oasis as soon as possible, solve the flame troll, and help you draw the skill scroll of the swordsman profession. Smile, emoji pack. Sprite's tone was very respectful, like facing the younger brother of Party A. Finally, he even applied for friends. If you have any gains, please email me. Sufan agreed to the application and casually closed the dialogue box. After finishing this little episode, Sufan discovered that there was only one mechanism beast left in the corridor. And he also has a complete third cold mist device on his hand. Because the skill upgrade and consumption of the spirit blade were reduced, it was actually faster than he expected to brush monsters, resulting in the cold mist device not being fully depleted, and the mechanism beasts on the corridor were almost cleared. Thinking of this, Sufan's heart moved. In the past life, members of the Moog Guild discovered this plot event and occupied the underground ruins. After completing their strategy, in order to showcase the reputation of the guild, they even posted videos on the Old God forum, documenting their pioneering experiences and various encounters in underground ruins throughout the process. Old God has a built-in recording function. As long as players are willing, they can record their first perspective as a video, upload it to the Old God forum, and provide it to others for observation, gaining attention from passers-by and forming a huge fan economy. Many folk experts are willing to use this method to increase their followers and increase their visibility. Professional guilds are extremely concerned about this. After all, behind them are all wealthy families. In the real world, the Baishi is controlled by the Baishi family under the Silver Wing Foundation, which controls the leading enterprises in various industries. If operated well, one can even rely on the reputation of the guild to support the wealthy families behind it and promote the development of enterprises under Baishi. This behavior is somewhat like live streaming sales. Thanks to this trend in his past life, Sufan was very familiar with the pioneering experience of the Moog Guild. They had gone to great lengths to hunt down the first relic mechanism beast, and then returned with the mechanical core to find Sophia. Sophia thanked them and paid the plot reward. Afterwards, she prohibited members of the Moog Guild and other players from approaching this place. It is indeed a classic case of ruthlessness in pulling out X, crossing rivers and demolishing bridges. Once someone violates, they will be attacked by Sophia. At this point, everyone realizes Sophia's strength is strong, and she can crush all the players at this stage alone. She is truly a female hunter who claims to target the Master of Secrets, even just one step away. Until later, the 7th Divine Domain invaded the Black Flame Duchy, and a great war broke out on the Dragon Bone Wilderness outside Juyan town. The forest laws from Yalfu invaded and eroded the terrain of the Dragon Bone Wilderness. In the end, many oases were smoothed out, along with underground ruins destroyed, leaving only ruins, and Sophia's whereabouts are unknown. Until a few months later, she reappeared within the territory of the 7th Divine Realm. At this point, players were surprised to find that Sophia was already a Master of Secrets and a high-level figure in the Golden Song. Some people speculate that her ability to take that step may be closely related to the harvest inside the underground ruins. Unfortunately, that group of relic mechanism beasts was too terrifying, blocking the progress of the Moog Guild in reclaiming land. They worked together to hunt and kill only one relic mechanism beast according to the task requirements, and then withdrew from the relic. But at present, Sufan is still in the corridor, carrying out the task entrusted to him by Sophia. Find a mechanical core. From the progress of the task alone, Sufan has already completed the task and can submit the event. Considering Sophia's subsequent reaction, Sufan was not in a hurry to go up. He also had a complete cold mist device in his hand. Perhaps he could make a big death and try exploring the depths of this underground relic alone with the strength of a low-level player. Thinking of this, Sufan put away this cold mist device and headed towards the last mechanism beast in diameter. He doesn't intend to consume the cold mist device on the other person. But when the two were close to 4 meters, Sufan drew his sword directly and a faint blue sword aura suddenly hit the mechanism beast. Bang! The relic mechanism beast was beaten and its body shook. The next second, it decisively turned its head and looked at Sufan's position. This time there was no interference from the cold fog, and the thermal sensing device on the relic mechanism beast was not affected at all. On the contrary, after being triggered into a state of hatred, the diameter rushed toward Sufan. Even if the latter is outside its range of hatred, it can still capture enemies without the interference of cold fog. This is the normal monster pulling mechanism. Previously, it was Sufan who used the flaws of the mechanism beast to engage in free prostitution and monster hunting, which is a special example. The mechanism beast approached Sufan's position, bent its limbs, and then suddenly bounced again. Dong, the mechanism beast rushed towards him in the air, but Sufan's movement was faster and he had already withdrawn from the attack range. Bang! The mechanism beast fell to the ground, violently shaking up dust. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sufan's wrist trembled and his sword energy, even darker than before, pierced into the gaps between the limbs of the mechanism beast, accurately targeting the core. Stabbing sword style. With a skill level as high as LV.5, combined with Sufan's precise timing, he launched a single attack to defeat the enemy and paralyze the mechanism beast. Shwa! 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 Swordsmanship was like a rope used by the King of Hell, constantly hitting the body of the mechanism beast. The latter's head showed red numbers, and its health plummeted like a waterfall, gradually decreasing for about 3 to 4 seconds. Finally, the mechanism beast returned to normal and pounced again at Sufan, but the latter had already set up a long sword to block the opponent's mechanical limbs. Bang! With a loud bang, Sufan retreated and stepped on the ground, leaving a distinct mark. 40.1 A red letter popped out of Sufan's head. Although his health had already reached 80 points after reaching LV.3, he managed to handle it with force. With the mechanism beast itself at LV.5 health level and excellent strength foundation, he still dealt crushing damage. Of course, the most important point is that Sufan's block value is too low. He is a fully sensitive bonus and is one of the few in the swordsman profession. Due to the huge influence of Old God, before the open beta of the 6-star zone, the official website of Blue Ocean Federation had already introduced and recommended 7 basic professions, especially melee professions, which strictly declared the importance of block value. Under a science popularization similar to compulsory education, even novice players who log into Old God for the first time know that they need to increase their strength in the early stages, unless they are ranged professions such as Codex, Archer, or Contract Master, which are summoning professions. Otherwise, even the most agile assassin needs to increase their strength in the early stages to ensure that their block value is excellent enough. At least it can give them a chance to block, rather than just being knocked out after a single attack. Unfortunately, I don't have the parry skill yet. However, for others, adding a bit of full sensitivity is a suicidal path, but I don't really need block values. Sufan silently recited, and in the next moment, he lightly stepped on his feet and used the force of retreat to completely distance himself from the mechanism beast. Then, the familiar sword energy reignited one by one. The continuous sword energy hit the body of the mechanism beast, constantly consuming its remaining health. Next, every time the mechanism beast advances, Sufan will retreat and maintain a distance between the two, always on a safe line. This is the advantage of the spirit blade. In the early stage, convert the swordsman's output method into medium-range sword energy output. In this case, there is no need for physical contact, and the influence of block value on the swordsman can also be exempted. When Sufan uses the spirit blade, he only needs to be agile enough and doesn't need to care about his power attributes. Compared to other melee professions, it lacks one requirement attribute, fully reflecting its agility advantage. Boom! Finally, as the health of the mechanism beast was worn out, a burst of starlight exploded, and Sufan absorbed it, causing the character to rise to LV.4. This is when he killed a level 5 elite monster without relying on the cold mist device in a frontal battle, and used his skills to cross the level and kill the enemy. Unfortunately, it is still an empty car segment. The last mechanism beast did not drop any equipment or materials, only a mechanical core required for the mission. Sufan picked up the core and stuffed 6 mechanical cores into his backpack, which completely exceeded the task requirements. I don't know what use this thing can have in the future. Let's not worry about it for now, because when he stood up and saw the end of the corridor, the mechanism beast had almost died, triggering a certain mechanism. With a click, the stone wall on the wall rotated and revealed a dark room. Seeing this situation, Sufan cautiously walked into the dark room. The indoor space is very large. No, it should be said to be an underground hall. From Sufan's perspective, one can see that the entire hall covers a huge area, at least hundreds of cubic meters. Surrounded by a stone wall, with numerous patterns painted on it, there were huge ancient dragons depicted in the sky, as well as humans dressed differently, prostrating themselves on the ground to offer their faith to the dragons. There were also huge pyramidal tombs with guardians made of giant corpses on both sides. Sufan glanced at them and, with his rich experience, recognized the contents on the stone wall. The ancient murals of the Kantian civilization originated from the old era when ancient dragons and giants competed, and the products of the previous era's civilization. Wait a moment, this is the opportunity for Sophia to be promoted to the Master of Secrets. Well, it actually meets the needs she described. Sufan silently thought, his gaze casually scanning towards the center of the hall. Suddenly, his gaze slightly froze. In the center of the underground hall, there lay a massive corpse, loaded with a large number of machinery. Gears were embedded inside the skin, and the exposed mechanical copper pipes formed a perfect whole, lifeless, cold, and full of power. The guardian made from the body of the frost giant. Sufan recognized the other person's identity, and when his gaze met the guardian, a message automatically popped up. Giant Guardian LV, the boss-level monster, danger assessment. Nightmare. Sufan gasped for breath. The level difference between the two sides was more than 20 levels, and he couldn't even see the other's level. Moreover, the danger assessment was a nightmare. You should know that in the evening arena, when a level 0 character fought against a level 4 desert lizard, the danger assessment was only high. In danger assessment, the degree is divided into low, medium, high, dangerous, and nightmare. Generally speaking, if the danger rating is medium, the player is prone to death. If it is high, it is a near death. And the nightmare in front of us belongs to the highest danger. It can be said that, under this disparity in strength, Sufan's skills could no longer make up for it. Any slight attack from the opponent would probably result in a sudden death on the spot. Fortunately, this guardian is in a dormant state. In front of the guardian, there is a golden treasure chest. Obviously, that is a golden treasure chest. In the wilderness map, there are treasure chests, such as in the oasis on the Dragon Bone Wilderness. After conquering those troll tribes, one can often find a treasure chest. However, most of the treasure chests on the oasis are mainly gray, with a very small number being black iron level treasure chests. The classification of treasure chest levels is the same as the quality of equipment. Gray level, black iron level, bronze level, silver level. And the gold level treasure chest in front of Sufan. Under normal circumstances, as a preliminary map, Dragon Bone Wilderness has a low challenge level, and it is impossible to find silver-level treasure chests, let alone gold-level treasure chests, within the map. This can only prove one thing. Currently, the underground hall where Sufan is located is a hidden map. In wilderness maps, there are some hidden locations, also known as hidden maps. Unlike normal maps, the triggering conditions for hidden locations are extremely difficult, and the difficulty of exploration is often several levels beyond the normal map. Even the most elite professional guilds have the possibility of being completely destroyed upon entry. Right now, Sufan has encountered a hiding place. Only through Sophia's plot events can one reach the underground hall. Without a doubt, it meets the conditions. Giant Guardian, obviously not someone at my level who can provoke. The difficulty of this hidden map completely exceeds the current level of players. Even if it is the capital of the Black Flame Duchy, no, even if it is the top first-tier team of the 6th Divine Domain, the top 100 players will form a team to ensure that it is also the end of the team's defeat. But there is a golden treasure chest there. Sufan was spinning his thoughts, and soon he made a decision. At the next moment, Sufan activated the cold mist device and cautiously leaned against the oil painting wall, walking silently towards the center of the hall, where a golden treasure chest flickered. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Golden Treasure Chest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Golden Treasure Chest. In the quiet and gloomy hall, Sufan pressed against the edge of the mural and gradually approached the central golden treasure chest. At the same time, he constructed the entire scene in his mind and began to analyze it. From the entrance of the hall, about 100 meters away from the center. With my current 10 points of agility, it takes about 7.8 seconds to cross this distance. You can take a gamble on this little time. After Sufan made the decision, he no longer hesitated and approached the center of the hall step by step. It was a step-tall stone platform that looked like an altar, and the Guardian, covered in mechanical devices, was lying below the altar. Its right arm even wrapped around most of the stone platform. In a cautious state, Sufan slowly climbed onto the stone platform. However, as he approached the center of the platform, less than 10 meters away. Click. The Guardian, who was originally stationary, suddenly had a red light in his eyes. The next second, with a visible red gaze, he swept over the entire stone platform and swept straight from Sufan's body. At this moment, his inner alarm sounded loud. Sufan's body stiffened and he dared not move, even holding his breath. Time seemed to have slowed down, and in the silent hall, only the sound of water droplets dripping from the sky to the shallow pool, as well as the rusty and green-mossed Guardian, were left with the sound of gears emitted by the mechanism's rotation. Ka, ka, ka. The crimson color swept over Sufan's body, the entire tall stone platform, and the wall painted with murals, extending all the way to the end of the hall, without even leaving any blind spots. Even if hidden deep, it would still be exposed to the scanning. Fortunately, Sufan held a cold mist device in his hand, and a little white mist adhered to his body, reducing his temperature to a normal object. The red scan with temperature detection function swept over him without any pause. Drop, no signs of life detected. The Guardian's eyes made a sound, and the next second, the red color gradually faded, like a charcoal fire being poured with cold water and extinguished again. Ha! Sufan breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and then he realized the reason for the accident. Is this an automatically triggered scanning device? Prevent the assassin profession from becoming invisible, bypass the Guardian's detection, and come to the stone platform to obtain a gold-level treasure chest. That's right. As a hidden map and a gold-level treasure chest that early players would not normally obtain, having a special scanning mechanism is also reasonable. However, the cold fog device made by the goblins is a beautiful surprise. Sufan couldn't help but sigh inwardly as he understood the causes and consequences. He is not an assassin profession, nor did he rely on invisibility to come to the underground hall, but he actually killed in. Although swordsmen have advanced to become secret swordsmen, they still have hidden methods, and are even more mysterious and sophisticated than assassins. But neither the secret swordsman or the assassin's stealth methods have the function of changing body temperature. Under the scanning of the giant guardian, there will definitely be nowhere to hide. Of course, as a product of the Second Age, the Kantian civilization made giant guardians before the goblins invented the cold mist device, and no one even connected the two. Sufan shook his head, his heart filled with admiration. Fate is so wonderful, some coincidences are enough to change an ending. Without wasting time, Sufan approached the center of the stone platform and reached out to touch the golden treasure chest. Unlocking treasure chest, target is in non-combat state, unlock is enabled. Unlock progress 1%, 5%, 13%. Looking at the information prompts on the horizon, Sufan took a deep breath. Fortunately, there were no other miscellaneous monsters in the underground hall, otherwise he could only give up in pain to avoid alerting the giant guardian. After all, the prerequisite for opening a treasure chest is a non-combat state. Once a battle is triggered, the initiation process will be interrupted. So those oases on the Dragon Bone Wilderness, where monsters gather, need players to clean them up before they can open the treasure chests in the tribe. Of course, the vast majority of the treasure chests they open are gray, with only a few reaching the level of black iron treasure chests. For example, the Flame Troll tribe that Sufan once revealed has a black iron level treasure chest. However, compared to the gold level treasure chest in front of him, the two are completely not in the same value level, enough to make anyone crazy. This is also an important reason why Sufan is willing to take risks. In the early stages, the harvest of a gold-level treasure chest can greatly accelerate its development speed and fill the weak of its own backwardness. Unlock progress 75%, 89%, 100%. Click. The golden-level treasure chest emitted a golden light, and in the next moment, the lid of the treasure chest slowly dissipated, revealing the golden cluster inside. Sufan didn't have time to check the details, so he grabbed the light ball and put it in the backpack column. Because after the treasure chest was opened, a golden halo shone on the face of the giant corpse, and the next second, the previously extinguished red light came back on. This time it's not an automatically triggered scan, but a true awakening. Giant Guardian, that is the top creation of the Kantian civilization. Sufan doesn't think that with a cold mist device, he can hide his figure in front of the fully awakened Guardian like nothing else. This is not at the same difficulty level as automatic scanning in sleep mode. Run! Sufan didn't hesitate, but with a sudden kick, he jumped up from the tall stone platform and fell towards the ground below. At the same time, crimson gradually lit up in the eyes of the giant guardian, and in the mechanical device on his body, half-rusted gears rotated, crushing the green moss to pieces. Mysterious textures gradually lit up on his cold and hard skin. The pinnacle of creation, representing the combination of mechanical craftsmanship and magical spells, spans thousands of years at this moment. Wake up again. Dong, Sufan fell to the ground and rolled to slow down the impact. Ignoring the fact that his health was deducted by 3 points, he rushed straight towards the entrance. I still need about 5 seconds to run to the entrance. Sufan made a calm judgment and the jump just now bought him 2 seconds of time. Scanning in progress, the giant guardian murmured, his pupils having regained their sight, scanning the entire hall and analyzing the situation according to the set procedure. There are still 5 seconds left until Sufan leaves the hall. A circle of familiar red light, faster than before, swept through the entire scene and also swept over Sufan, who was running normally. Didi, there are signs of life detected. The giant guardian muttered to himself. The next second, the crimson in its eyes turns into a dark blue, triggering the predetermined defense program. There are invaders, follow the instructions of the Lord, eliminate the invaders. There are still 3 seconds left until the entrance. Ka, the giant guardian stood up hard, but the old mechanical gears that had not yet moved hindered his speed of movement. There are still 2 seconds left until the entrance. The giant guardian straightened his arms and fell fiercely towards the small ant not far away. There's still 1 second left from the entrance. Sufan felt the strong wind behind him, and his long-cultivated combat instinct made him no longer need to think, and his body rushed forward. Boom! There was a loud roar from behind, accompanied by a terrifying gust of wind. Sufan was thrown away and small stones hit him, causing splashing damage ranging from 4 to 6 points. At least 5 or 6 small stones hit him, causing his health to drop by nearly half. At the next moment, Sufan, carrying a strong wind, crashed onto the familiar corridor outside the entrance, rolling several times before finally stopping. 30.7 Sufan's head was marked with a red number indicating a fall injury. The impact of the Guardian's hammer was extremely terrifying. Even if it touched, it was enough to send Sufan back to life. Despite this, his health was only 5 points left. The aftershock of a small stone splash and shockwave had already knocked Sufan, who was full of blood, into a dying state. It can be imagined how terrifying this giant guardian was. After desperately escaping, Sufan looked at the dust outside the entrance and quickly took a few steps back. He didn't want to be splashed again. If he died in this way, it would be too shameful. The dust had not yet dissipated, and the giant guardian in the hall wanted to reach out and catch someone, but even its palm was too large and was stuck outside the entrance, so it crazily smashed against the wall. Dong! 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 After a while of smashing, the entire hidden door completely collapsed, burying the only entrance to the hall. Sufan stared blankly at everything, watching the giant knock the door hard, and a thought came to his mind. Ms. Sophia, her goal is the ancient murals in the underground hall. Now the entrance is gone. What should we do? Sufan gave a wake-up call and quickly shook his head. What does it have to do with me when the giant guardian knocks out the entrance? Ms. Sophia won't blame me. At the same moment, the giant guardians in the hall looked at the collapsed ruins, their eyes flickering with a faint blue, sometimes becoming crimson, sometimes becoming faint blue, as if 2 thoughts were fiercely engaged. Invaders. The entrance to the Hall of Lost Life is damaged. Not allowed. Destroying the murals. A few seconds later, the giant guardian's eyes turned crimson, turned around and returned to the bottom of the stone platform, sat down again, and once again entered hibernation. Seeing the dust permeating the ruins and the entire corridor no longer trembling, Sufan breathed a sigh of relief and realized that the guardians were no longer chasing him. This means that his adventure was successful. Gold-level treasure chest. Thinking of this, Sufan quickly opened his backpack and checked the harvest. A pure gold equipment blueprint was lying in his backpack, and Sufan's mind moved, and a golden blueprint appeared in his hand, casting drawing. Dark prayer weapon, unique, drawing grade. Gold level rating. 200, out of gold, usage effect. Transforms the weapon series of the Kantian civilization into a dark prayer weapon, with an initial quality of black iron, which can devour similar weapons to improve quality. This blueprint has uniqueness, and the dark prayer weapon is bound to the host and permanently non-tradable, without the drop attribute. Personalization requirements. 1 weapon from the Kantian civilization, 10 desert crystals, and 100 copper coins. Sigh. Sufan couldn't help but gasp for breath when he saw the attributes on the blueprint, even with his knowledge. Surprisingly, it's a customized blueprint. And it's a unique point drawing. With Sufan's rebirth experience, of course, he knows what the Jianhua blueprint is. This is a prop that can only be produced in storyline events, and it is a high-level storyline event. In the early stages of low-level events, there is no need to produce point drawings. Most importantly, after using point drawings, ordinary equipment can be transformed into ancient civilization equipment. The equipment of ancient civilizations often had better quality, more outstanding attributes, and even set effects. However, the equipment of ancient civilizations was also very scarce, and apart from refining blueprints, the quantity could only be produced through dungeons. Unlike regular equipment, there is also a chance to drop monsters in the wild. If it is an elite monster or a leader-level small boss, it is even easier to drop equipment. The vast majority of players have equipment that comes from wild monsters dropping. Therefore, the equipment of ancient civilizations is quite distant from them. At present, Sufan has obtained a customized blueprint, which is unique in nature. The equipment identified from the blueprint will also have a unique suffix. This means that there is only one hidden prayer weapon in the entire Kandian civilization, which is truly a golden treasure chest. The only problem is the demand for enlightenment, and the most difficult is to demand a weapon from the Kantian civilization. Fortunately, when Sufan killed the beast, he had already dropped a black steel sword because it was a mass-production weapon and did not belong to the equipment of ancient civilization, but it met the requirements of the blueprint. Apart from this biggest challenge, the remaining two are easy to solve. The first one requires 10 desert crystals. In the oasis on the Dragon Bone Wilderness, the troll tribe often drops this item. Looking back to Sprite, do they have any extra crystals for sale in their studio? The last 100 copper coins. Sufan couldn't help but scratch his head at this thought. Although he reached an agreement with the Qingji studio, which waived his 30 copper coin loan, Sufan still had nothing on him. After coming out of the Twilight fighting arena, he even had to sell the newcomer bread in exchange for 3 cold mist devices. A penny can't defeat a hero. As a reborn person, Sufan deeply understands the feeling of poverty. By the way, I also need to raise the tuition fees early to make Xingxue feel at ease. Sufan rubbed his forehead, feeling the surprise of obtaining the golden treasure chest, but also feeling the taste of poverty. He was slightly relieved. First, enhance your strength to deal with the invasion of the Divine Realm in 3 days. Earn enough game currency again, find someone to exchange it for real federal currency, and make up for the tuition fee. Sufan let out a heavy breath and identified 2 goals. After collecting the golden blueprint, Sufan followed the original path and quickly returned to the sunken ship, where he saw Sophia leaning against the door. "Miss Sophia, I have completed the task," Sufan shamelessly said, not mentioning any changes in the underground ruins. "So fast." Sophia's face lit up with joy, no doubt he was there. "Yes, I have the mechanical core that the lady needs." Sufan was about to take out the core when suddenly, his heart moved slightly and he thought of the 6 cores lying in his backpack. His tone changed and he added, "I was cleaning up mechanical monsters in the underground ruins. It was a bit heavy and I gained a few extra cores. Ms. Sophia, what's the use of these cores?" After speaking, Sufan took out 6 mechanical cores. At the same time, Sophia in front of her suddenly lit up and eagerly reached out. "Great, I just need more cores. Would you be willing to give them to me?" Tip. Sophia has requested to take more cores. Do you agree/disagree? Tip. This selection will affect the reward for the Dragon Bone Ruins event. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Guardian Spirit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.